Ready?
You ready for this 2 o'clock meeting?
I'd like to call to order the Sparks City Council meeting of September 10th, 2018 with a roll call, please.
Mayor Martini,
Here.
council members Abbott, Lawson, Smith,
Here.
Bybee,
Here.
Dare,
Present.
acting city attorney Eiding, city manager Driscoll. Here. We have a quorum, thank you.
Okay, I have invocation speaker is Pastor Malik Blythe, Victory City Church. Is he here, Pastor Blythe? No? Okay, so I'll do our regular standard, Mr. Dare. If you'd all stand, please. Mr. Dare, would you lead us in the prayer, please?
Yes. Would you bow your head? Thank you, Lord, for our time together here, and I pray, Lord, for the decisions that we get to make. Lord, I pray that you guide us in every way. Thank you for each person that's here. And Lord, I do pray for our city, Lord. Thank you that you've given us such a fantastic place that we get to live, we get to play, and we get to run forward with all the things you have for us. Lord, I thank you for our first responders. I pray you keep them safe in each step they take in our military. Guide us here today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Very nice, Mr. Dare, thank you. If you remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ms. Bybee, would you lead us, please?
I'll be happy to. Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I have public comment. Anyone who wants to make public comment, please fill out this card under item number 4, and we'll have you up here to speak. First up, I have Anonymous. Come on up, please.
Always surprises me when the clock starts before we even
You want to start it over? Yeah, thank you. Let us know when you're ready.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm speaking anonymously due to the threats on the lives of us survivors of domestic violence, and I'm just here to update you on the lawsuit that we have against the city of Sparks and against each of you personally. The personal lawsuits against each member of this panel is precedent setting, and that is before the U.S. District Courts right now. All of this information is what is called support material, and it is provided to you under NRS 241. This is Attorney General Catherine Masto's letter dated May 1st, 2013. This is public information. You all have access to this. And she states that she wants SB 27 passed. That's the Senate bill that talks about survivors of domestic violence evidence being destroyed illegally. This is what Catherine Masto said in her testimony. And just to summarize, she stated that, and I bring to your attention, it's May 3rd, 2013, 2 days later. She states she doesn't want SB 27 passed. She learned something over one day, and that's what we survivors of domestic violence have learned, is that there's an illegally concealed database, court database of men who are husbands and fathers who have been adjudicated by district court judges as domestically violent. These are district court judges that ruled these fathers and husbands are domestically violent. And Catherine Cortez Masto says she doesn't want any legislation passed about the concealment of this database. This is what each one on this panel is being held accountable for. You've had all this information. We've come to you for 2 years. Judge Weller, who states that we survivors of domestic violence belong in the kitchen or the bedroom, his hearing was 2 weeks ago. The state will be commenting on that, we believe in about 2 weeks. And of course, City of Sparks employee Heidi Shaw. Of course, we've been coming to you for 2 years about her. She's destroying our evidence. She doesn't have any legal authority to do that. We spoke with Chief of Police Allen, and he stated that Steve Driscoll is calling the shots on this. So we will be commenting more on this as the lawsuit progresses.
Thank you. Okay, next I have Bill Wagner. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, City Council, for the record, my name is Bill Wagner. I'm here to talk briefly about Prop 3. At your last meeting, I came away very confused on how to vote. I was given a person to call by the name of Miss Bassett, NV Energy Government Affairs North, no return calls. After doing some research, a yes vote will benefit big box stores, casinos, and big businesses. A no vote will benefit single-family homes. Therefore, I'm asking you to support a no vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. Okay, the next one I have doesn't have a number on it to, under what item to speak, but I have Chastity Lou Townsend. Do you want to speak now or when the line bike comes up? It's up to you. Okay, I'll just hold it until we do the line bike presentation. And then I have Nolan R. McKiernan. You want line bike as well, okay. Okay, anyone else want to speak publicly under public comment? Okay, seeing no further public comment, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the council. 5.1, approval of the agenda. Now, I want to make one amendment to the agenda. 9.3 on the agenda under general business needs to be heard after 11.1, which is the public hearing and planning and zoning. So if you make a motion to approve the agenda, would you make that amendment, please? 9.3 to be heard after 11.1. Do you have a motion, Mr. Driscoll?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council had asked in a prior session that the announcements we make for committee appointments and volunteers, rather than being done at the end of the meeting, to be done at the beginning of the meeting. It's not agendized to do so today. I do have an announcement.
Okay.
So if it's the council's pleasure to add my announcement at the beginning of the meeting, if that could be part of the motion as well, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Looking for a motion, Mr. Smith.
Okay, I move to approve the agenda with a change of 9.3 after 11.1, and then allow Mr. Driscoll to do his presentations before.
Second, Mr. Dare.
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Dare to approve the agenda as approved by staff with the two amendments made by Mr. Smith and Mr. Dare. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, appointment 6.1, consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of, wait a minute, Mr. Driscoll, I'm sorry. Well, I have a long memory, don't I?
Thank you,
my
Mr.
God,
Mayor, and
should've
thank you for
waited a
taking me
second.
out of
Should've
order.
ordered
So the announcement I have today is the following committee is available: the Sparks Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. The committee requires one member and one alternate from wards 1 through 5, and 2 members and 1 alternate from the mayor. Members shall be residents of the city of Sparks, preferably over the age of 55, who have a desire to learn more about interactions between the city's aging senior population and the city government, and a willingness to share their collective knowledge with others. Persons interested in serving on this committee should complete a community service application available from the city clerk's office. You may also apply online at the city's website, www.cityofsparks.us. You would click on Government on the webpage, then under Boards and Commissions, click on Volunteering for a Sparks Board and Commission, and then fill out the online application and submit. Applications will be accepted until the close of business on Friday, November 16th. And let me please just explain quickly why this is going to be open for a long time. Based on the rules that you did for this committee, they're coterminous with the person that appoints them. And since we have new council coming on board, a new council period coming on board, we thought it would be best to make this kind of concurrent with the boards and commissions work that we do, since we're setting this up for the first time. That would give you a chance for you to set your boards and commissions for yourselves, do these appointments and any other appointments that are based on coterminous with the council positions that have turned over by election, not by people, of course. And then that would just get us on a fresh page starting in December, getting ready for the next 2-year cycle. So that's why we have it open for a little longer period of time.
Makes perfect sense to me,
Thank you.
because I won't be here to follow up these minute deals, so. Now, 6.1 minutes. Consideration and possible approval of the minutes of the regular Sparks City Council meeting of August 27, 2018. Any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve the minutes for the council meeting of August 27th, 2018, as presented.
Second, Mr. Lawson. Second. Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve the minutes of August 27th. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to announcements and presentations. Presentations, we have Renown Health update, Dr. Slonim, and we have former TV star Wendy Damani with him here, I believe so. You're not going to let the beautiful Damani come up and be on TV, Dr. Slonim?
I'm not, maybe later.
Okay, good, all right. Just checking. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members. For the record, Dr. Anthony Sloan, President and CEO of Renown Health. I thank you for the opportunity to be here this afternoon, mostly to share a couple of things that are going on in our community around health and healthcare, but more importantly, also to bring folks up to date about where we are with a financial investment in Sparks as it relates to our property on Adi Boulevard. Figure that would be important given since the purchase that, those kinds of things. And finally, the opportunity to gain your input on things that we're doing at Renown Health to improve the health and well-being of our community. So with that, we have participated 3 years ago with the Washoe County Health District in a community health improvement plan. These are the 4 major areas of those plans. And in partnership with a number of community organizations, substantial progress has been made. But we're still not at a point where I would consider us to be living a healthy and prosperous life. We need to be thinking differently about the things that we do next to advance the health and well-being of those citizens that we have here in Washoe County and including in Sparks. I think for me, our work at Renown is divided into 3 major buckets of activities. We call them community benefit, community development, and community investment. And I'm going to go through a few of the programs that we've done in each of those major categories so that we can better understand what it is and how we're trying to improve the community's health. Community benefit is providing health and healing as a response to things that we identify in the community as community needs, like the health needs assessment that I highlighted before, and we'll go into what are our current needs later on in the presentation. Renown Health spent $120 million in 2017 in response to community needs. Those were bucketed in almost $100 million in free or discounted care for the uninsured, and nearly $2 million to the Pregnancy Center for 1,500 underinsured moms who gave birth in 2017. We also funded $7.5 million in education for health professionals. As you know, we have a strategic partnership with the University of Nevada, Reno School of Medicine to continue to advance health professional education here in Northern Nevada. And recently, we're the partner that advanced the Physician Assistant School, which is new and now up and running, to hopefully complement the physicians in the community and add important workforce components through mid-level providers. I hope that you know we've also, in a very important study, advanced genetic testing for 50,000 Northern Nevadans in what we call our Healthy Nevada project. This is an opportunity to really get ahead of what I call the healthcare curve, those things you do for people when they're sick and injured, and try to understand what puts them at risk for adverse health conditions. By genetically testing people and understanding the data sources, we actually can understand where they might be at risk for things like breast cancer, colon cancer, and cardiac disease, things that they never would have expected until they did the genetic test. And it's a very simple 20-minute test where you spit into a tube and get your results about 6 weeks later. And we've compiled those data. So far, out of the 50,000 Northern Nevadans, we have accomplished gathering data on 35,000 of them, and we'll be heading to Southern Nevada, to Las Vegas, in January. The next major category is community development. This is where we work with partners in the community to make sure that we together are addressing health and healthcare needs, and where we partner with those community organizations who already provide service. One of the more important things I wanted to bring to the attention of the council is the important relationship that we now have with Stanford Health to improve access to healthcare, particularly for high-end quaternary services that we just simply can't provide here in the Northern Nevada community. What's important in this conversation, particularly as an employer where we're honored to serve you as customers, is that your employees at Sparks also get access to Stanford Healthcare in-network as a part of your hometown health benefit, which is huge. Second opinions, opportunities for quaternary care like transplantation, and other areas where the health needs of your employees may outstrip our capabilities in Northern Nevada. Stanford is a viable option, and that community development activity is something that we've only had for the last year, year and a half. Many of you know the plight of the homeless in our community, and we are certainly supportive of the CHAB efforts and the work that's going on from a multi-jurisdictional perspective to advance the homeless problem and help us get it under control. At Renown Health, we're doing our small part. We have a series of 3- and 4-family homes on Mill Street that we've made available to homeless families. And we've put them in there, 3 families per building, and provided, because we understand the importance of wraparound services, we provide not only wraparound services, but career education for those families so that we can get them off of the homelessness rolls and into jobs that provide an important income that we can backfill those homeless properties with more people who can then benefit from the service. It's a small demonstration project. Right now, it's got 4 adults and 9 children in it in 12 different housing units. But hopefully, as time goes on, we'll be able to continue this cycle and improve and contribute to the homeless efforts going on here in Northern Nevada. Finally, from a community investment perspective, $10 million over 2 years to improve access to health and healthcare services. This is where we are addressing important health and healthcare needs in Northern Nevada. And specifically, the one thing that I'm sure all of you have on your mind is, well, what about our building on Ali Boulevard? We currently have about 50 employees in Ali Boulevard. This was formerly the Lowe's building that we purchased about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And what we have housed there right now is what we call our material solutions and purchasing. We've capitalized on the warehouse, and we have all of our stock and storage there. We have security on site. It's located in about 60,000 square feet of the building. Future services that we hope to have in the building include all of our IT division and all of our population health management office, with a few other financial functions that will be located in the remaining 140,000 square feet. When all is said and done, we hope to have about 600 or so employees in this space. And we hope that that continues to advance the work of Downtown Sparks and contribute to the development that you guys have going on there. Construction will be starting on October 1st. We got a little bit behind schedule. Not that I'm making an excuse, but not the least of which reasons was it required a larger investment than we expected. So while we paid $6 million for the building, we are now in the $30 million range in terms of our investment in that building. Nonetheless, we think it's important and supportive for Sparks and for the work that we're doing to continue to advance this important community. We've added a number of doctors to improve our access to care, and we continue to be the large employer in the community, now with 7,000 individuals who are employed at Renown Health. As I said at the beginning, a community health needs assessment is important in getting our bearings in terms of the kinds of things that our community needs us to invest in from a health and a healthcare perspective. And not surprisingly, we still have very serious issues in Northern Nevada. But for a couple of examples, access to healthcare in part due to the deficient number of providers that we have. And so we're doing a large amount to continue to recruit not only primary care doctors, but specialty physicians to Northern Nevada and advancing mid-level practitioners. Mental health is at crisis proportions in Northern Nevada, and we have to do something about it. This is not a Sparks problem, it's not a Renown problem, this is all of our problem. And in addition to the mental health problem, we have serious problems as it relates to addiction. We have the uncanny frontline position of having 4 times the national average of suicide in this very senior elderly over 85. We're second in the country from a county perspective in adolescent female suicide. We have to do a better job if we're going to be successful in driving these mental health and addiction issues to a new level. We're very proud of our newly released Stacy Matheson Behavioral Health and Addiction Institute. Through the generous support of the Mathesons, we hope to start to contribute in a way that is important to this problem in Northern Nevada. And then finally, the last priority that I would highlight is social determinants of health. This includes housing insecurity and homelessness. This includes affordable housing. This includes the undercurrents of poor health and disease, like food insecurity, and we have to pay attention to the kinds of things that put our individuals at risk of adverse health and healthcare experiences. These are the examples of areas where we're investing in those domains and some of the community partners. In summary, I want to thank you for your attention and your contributions to helping make people healthy in Northern Nevada. I know that a multi-jurisdictional approach to housing insecurity and food insecurity and the social determinants of health are vital for all of us, and the problem will not be fixed without a team-based approach. At Renown Health, we're here to do our part and make sure that we're living up to that expectation. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions and certainly would welcome any input that you have on ways that we can make health and healthcare better for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sloan. I really appreciate it. And again, we appreciate your investment and that you're doing in Sparks over on the Audi corridor, which is going to allow that. And my good friend over here, Ron Smith, the new mayor, is going to make sure that RTC fixes that street, right, Ron?
It's going to be a big
You know,
project. It's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be exactly what he says. It's going to be beautiful over there. And a lot has to do with Renown coming there, because you get somebody like the name of Renown over in that area, and then the whole area changes completely for the better. So again, we appreciate your investment over there. I know it's a big one, and it's really top of the list for us, and we appreciate that.
Our pleasure.
Questions, Mr. Dare?
I just want to thank you for being here as well, and Renown and Wendy, and a couple things just to highlight that I know we've spoken about, but I just want to kind of put out there. Thank you for your support of the CHAB, and I think as we work together as a region, we will get so much farther regarding our homeless and the needs that are there. And then one of the things that I just commend you for is looking down the path, because as a region, we have to be looking at what's coming, how many people we're going to have here, how many doctors we need, what kind of stuff, and your investment is crucial in that. And so continued, I just say this, a continued communication to what we do of knowing how that's going is definitely appreciative. But thank you for all that you've done, and mental health is, I think, number one in all that we're talking about. So whatever expertise you can bring to the table, I will reiterate what you said. I don't believe it's your problem to solve, but thank you for being at the table for that.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And one thing for me, you finally have some people that take care of people like me with Parkinson's and the deep brain stimulation operation that I have. I've met a lady over there, Peggy Smith, who's very, very nice and does a great job helping me through my trials and tribulation, and, you know, tuning me up and turning me up and making my brain work. So I really appreciate you guys bringing that over from, I had to go to San Francisco to have the operation, and now they're doing it at Renown, and I really appreciate that, because I could go there instead of San Francisco to get tuned out, so I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, one other comment, Ms. Spivey, go ahead.
Dr. Sloan, I appreciate you being here also. And I think people don't realize how much Renown does do, how much they're involved in the community and the whole scope of things. I didn't realize you're housing for the homeless, and I guess that's new, but understanding all of us that sit on not just this council, but regional planning and other boards and commissions looking at regional issues, the top issues we are grappling with as a community. I'm glad to hear Renown is there with us, because it does take a community partnership to address, mental illness, to address the homeless, affordable housing, all those things that are putting pressure on this community, and I appreciate your input on that. And I will have to say on your, for the genetic testing, I think it's exciting to see the wave of the future with technology coming so far, so fast, the benefits we can see of using technology for everything, all the services you offer, but the genetic piece of it, and I did the 23andMe right off the bat, and I've got to follow up on that more than I have, but I think it really will help us as a state and as a region when we understand, because of the genetic testing, what health issues, and be more proactive on the front end instead of reactive, because I think it'll give us just valuable information that will help us focus on the things that this community and the state need, and I appreciate your partnership with that, and I think all of us working together will hopefully make it a healthier community for everybody that lives here or comes here, so thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sloan, we appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks. Thanks, Wendy, for
Council.
coming, we appreciate that. Okay, next, let's move on to 7.2, presentation Greyhound bid to Centennial Plaza. She's doing this?
Hello, Mr. Mayor. My name is Jody Stevens and council members. I am with Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, and Schreck. I am going to be calling in Ray Nunez. He is a senior real estate director for Greyhound, so bear with me while I try to figure out technology because my 14-year-old is not here to help me.
We have somebody that's that smart over here, too. So.
Yeah, Teresa, she showed me what to do, but dear Lord. Oh.
Yeah, but you have a 14-year-old brain. So.
Oh, I would like to point out, I did not
You
say
did,
that.
you
I
did.
was thinking it,
You
but
did walk smack into that one, pal. As you get older, you'll learn more, though. Ooh, it's ringing.
Step
Bonus.
one.
Bonus.
sorry, just the small wins in life.
Well, Mr. Frank?
Hi, Ray. This is Jody Stevens, along with the Sparks City Council and some fine folks in the audience. How are you?
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Good, thanks.
Wonderful. I'm pulling up the presentation now. All right, Ray, you're on.
Might want to put the microphone down.
Hello, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there in person,
Should we
but
use the
I
other
guess
one, too?
with a phone call, hopefully we
mic.
can present this and answer any questions. I'm Ray Nunez. I'm the Senior Director of Real Estate for Greyhound. And a little background here on our history there in Reno. We've been in Reno for some time and have an owned property in the Reno area. And the highest and best use of that property was no longer that of a bus station. And we decided to put it on the market, and there was strong interest in it. And we finally closed on it March of this year. And we have until December to find a home. So that's why we're here. Just a little background on Greyhound. I'm on slide 2 now. Greyhound is the largest provider of intercity bus transportation in North America. We run coast to coast and up into Canada and down into Mexico. So conceivably, somebody could buy a ticket in, down in Monterrey, Mexico, or even, Mexico City, and find their way all the way up to Toronto or Ottawa, for example, or anywhere within the United States as well. Greyhound recently turned 104 years old, has been in business quite some time, and has experienced some evolution over that time. And the Greyhound of today is different than it was back in back in the heyday where we had big bus stations. And the bus station that we have there in Reno is more evident of a time when Greyhound had a lot more schedules before airlines were deregulated, And so the stations were bigger, and we have several of those, but we're trying to become more efficient and more importantly, our part of our strategy is to connect with other forms of transit in the intermodals, and that's what we're trying to do here. It just makes sense, and that's more in line with really globally, what's happening with transportation. And because of that connectivity, we currently, serve more than 3,800 destinations in North America. We've got a list, and that'll be in the following slide, but we're in about 166 intermodal facilities in North America, and then another 13 that are in process. One of the things a lot of people don't know about Greyhound, we provide, I was going to talk about the runaway program, but we have a runaway program where if there's a teenager that has run away, they can get a free ticket back home anywhere in the U.S. Greyhound has had that in existence for quite some time. But just going up back to the prior bullet, in times of emergencies, Greyhound has been called to help times of need, and Hurricane Katrina was one area where we did that. Lots of buses were sent there to help get people out, and also during 9/11, when the airlines were grounded for some time, basically just ground travel was kind of the way to go, and so Greyhound was able to provide that service during that critical time. Moving on to the next slide, page 3. This is the list of intermodals. It continues to grow, and off to the right you can see those that are in planning. There's 13, so for a total of 179, and we continue to add to that list. It's just kind of where we're going. Just as a quick comment, just recently we relocated from legacy standalone terminals like the one we have in Reno to transit centers that were recently built. The most recent ones, which are just within the last few months, include Jacksonville, Florida, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Birmingham, Alabama. Those were intermodals that were in the works. We partnered with the transit agencies and with the municipalities to make that happen. And then moving on to the next slide, number 4. Again, this is just a little more of what I've already elaborated on the connectivity. When a passenger is able to connect, locally and also intercity, then they just have better options and better experiences, and that's what we're trying to do. In this particular slide, this was when we were trying to get into the Amtrak station there in Reno. That didn't work out, and so that's why we're looking at Sparks. But that second bullet applies to Centennial Plaza because that was built for transportation. It's highly underutilized, admittedly by RTC, and we think that it can provide a good use, for us and for the traveling public locally there as well. I guess I probably won't go into much more there because it's more specific to Amtrak, but I can tell you that our plan there in Centennial Plaza is to utilize the western part, which is vacant. It's about 1,170 square feet. Our initial plan is to propose up to 24 seats, 2 ticket stations, and we have a freight business, but our plan is to offer no freight services there, and to only provide passenger services. And I think with that, I can move on to the next slide unless anybody has any questions up to now.
Madam Attorney, I see you have something. Go ahead, Cheryl, you have a question? No, I don't. How come your name isn't?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the question.
Sorry.
Never mind, go ahead, we're good.
We're good, Ray, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay, slide number 5. This, I think, is maybe perhaps more informational, but just so that you all know, we are partnering with Amtrak around the country. Amtrak runs a train service through the area there in Reno. And we have started this partnership with Amtrak probably about 3 or 4 years ago And this relationship is evolving. And what happened there in Reno is that we, as part of our collaboration in other places like in San Jose, California, where we actually share ticket counter space. Amtrak, for example, is selling Greyhound tickets on the behalf of Greyhound. And in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we actually relocated into an Amtrak facility and have a presence there. And in Chicago Union Station, Amtrak invited Greyhound into their own facility right there in downtown Chicago. It's a very historical train station, so that we can have a presence there to sell tickets and have a bus stop. And Amtrak is able to provide connectivity for their train passengers who, for whatever reason, if their trains are delayed, they are using Greyhound as a backstop to keep their people moving to their next destination. And so we're partnering in areas like that, and we're in discussions in others. In Reno, we started talking probably about over a year ago, and actually, well over a year ago. But it actually, this relationship came to fruition in January of this year, where we are what we call interlining with Amtrak. So, for example, somebody that buys a ticket, perhaps from, I don't know, let's say Denver, they're going from Denver to San Francisco, may go to, through Salt Lake City and then through Reno to San Francisco. As part of their journey, they may end up taking a train from Salt Lake to Reno, and then vice versa from Reno to Salt Lake City. This has allowed us to just be more efficient, and for both Amtrak and Greyhound to be more efficient, so that we can reduce our capacity. Amtrak increases their capacity, and this is just an example of where we're looking at working together. And in San Francisco, we're actually in discussions to do something similar to what we did in San Jose, where we may actually act as an agent for Amtrak, where we're selling tickets for Amtrak, and it allows them to be more efficient in their operational structure there. Anyway, that's just more informational, but it's something that's happening there. And so by having a presence in Sparks, we'll still have connectivity to downtown Reno, because some of our passengers will have to make their way into downtown. Moving on to the next slide, slide number 6, which is giving some information on our demographics for Reno.
This is Jody. Can you speed it up a little bit?
Oh, okay, sure.
Thanks. That was from the
sure
mayor,
will.
not me, just so you know.
Okay, I can certainly do that.
Haven't heard
Okay, well, you
anything
can just
that's
look
printed
at our
in Sparks yet, sorry.
demographics there. I think they speak for themselves. We support all kinds of people there. And then moving on to the next one, that shows age and household income. You can see that, at least I'll just make a comment on the age-related one. Over half of our passengers are, 45 and above. And then the household income kind of speaks for itself. And then the other slides, we can just fast forward through those. The one that I think might be of some interest is slide 13. If you can go to that, Jody.
I don't see any numbers. I'll try.
Yep.
Commercial, but no.
That's 13. I stopped
13.
All right, got it. Thank you. I'm getting help from the council
Stop the
members.
present, we're good.
Okay, it's the schedules, the bus schedules. So this, I think, is good information for you all to know. So we have Greyhound schedules. We actually put Amtrak schedules, so the ones in yellow you can ignore. But Greyhound has a total of 14 schedules, 5 in the morning up to noon, and then 9 in the evening. But the first one starts at 5:30 a.m. and the last one is at 9:45 p.m. It's one schedule for each occurrence, except for 9:45 a.m. where there's actually 2 schedules. Other than that, there's one. The average passengers per bus is 10, generally speaking. So conceivably, on average, there will be 10 folks waiting there at Centennial Plaza, waiting to get on a bus. And I think that kind of pretty much wraps it up, except for the last slide was really put there more as an example of a good experience that we had in Fresno, where we were invited there to relocate to historic Santa Fe Depot in Fresno. And I'm looking at slide 14, the next one, Jody. That's the Fresno City Hall to the left, the kind of unique looking building. And Santa Fe Depot is to the right. We were invited to move there at the invitation of the city, and that's been a really good experience. We're collaborating with Amtrak quite a bit. And then the last picture, slide 16, is just an image of what the fit out of our interior space ended up. It was very nice. It was just a shell, and we made it look very nice. And we anticipate we'll do something very nice there in Centennial Plaza. And that wraps it up, and I'm ready to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions, Ron Smith?
Ray, did you say your first bus leaves or gets here at 5:30 in the morning?
Ray, can you hear
I'm
them?
sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Councilman Smith wants to know if the first bus leaves or gets here at 5:30?
Yes, that would be an arrival at 5:30.
And what time do you shut down at night?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Ray, what time do you shut down at night?
Well, the last bus schedule is at 9:45, so it'll be shortly thereafter, so by 10:30 is what we would estimate.
Okay, and it's my understanding that you will have an attendant at the bus station the entire time you have buses scheduled.
And Ray,
An attendant the
Yes,
entire time we're operating, is that the question?
yes,
yes.
sir.
Yeah, that is something that I believe right now, today, there are periods during the day when the current station actually is closed. And going forward, that would be something we'd have to look at, just to, since it'll be a different location, we may have to operate a little differently. But it's something that, we're willing to look at.
And the contract is
I
with
know that we have
RTC, right?
I know that we have security where we are currently, even during the times that we're not operating.
Okay, I think we're going to stick with Sparks wants an attendant there because you're supposed to be selling tickets and everything else for your next bus. So that's something I'll be looking for. Also, if you have 14 buses coming and going, that means we have to have buses waiting for your bus to arrive so we can ship them right over to Reno. A transfer, as you will, which will be free. Are you aware of that?
Jody, could you repeat the question? I couldn't quite make it out.
Okay, we're supposed to have a bus from RTC waiting for every arrival.
Ray, they're supposed to have, Greyhound, or City of Sparks is supposed to have a bus.
RTC.
waiting- Excuse me, RTC is supposed to have a bus waiting after every arrival to transfer over to Reno,
4th Street.
4th Street, and they just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's part of that, the shuttle, I think that we've been aware of, that I think it's being initiated here soon. Is that?
Okay, and
The reference?
his contract is actually with the RTC, is that right?
And the contract is actually with the RTC, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm really concerned about the attendant. I want somebody there the whole time.
Okay, Councilman Smith has made it very clear that he would like some clarification on the attendant, that he would like someone there all the time.
Okay, all right, we can follow up on that.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have a request to speak deal, but I was going to speak after Ron, so I'm going to jump right in here. The only problem I see here, Jody and Ray, can you hear me, Ray? Ray.
I have difficulty making out what you're saying.
Well, to me, this is, how do I want to put this nicely? It's a cluster. And you can figure out what the next adjective is yourself, but You know, I don't understand why you're going right by one terminal to put people at another terminal 3 miles away, so you can pick them up with a shuttle bus and bring them back 3 miles. I mean, I just don't get that part of it. And the other thing I said through your presentation is, I hear nothing that's relative to Sparks when you're speaking. You're talking about Reno here, Reno there, Amtrak, and nothing about Greyhound. I just don't understand the whole concept. Understand maybe legally we don't have any option but to do this. Maybe there's some RTC problems because we invested government money in the Centennial Plaza. And the other thing is, I lost my train of thought. Hold on one second. It'll come back to me. So go ahead, Mr. Dare. Go ahead and ask some questions, and I'll jump in a few minutes.
So, one question, and maybe I just don't understand, why you sold your building without a place to go and looking for a home. I don't understand that. But the part that I just keep envisioning, and I just want to probably hear back from you on how we handle this. We don't want to see a bunch of people sleeping and waiting for buses and what that could look like down there. This is an area that we've invested a lot of time and money and care a lot about. And so there's a lot of question around it, and I don't want to see that becoming a holding tank. Now our police are dealing with a whole nother thing. We're already under policed, and so I'm trying to put my head around it as well, and I don't understand why we are here. I understand it might be a legal thing where we don't have a lot of say, but I'm really concerned about the problems that might be caused.
Ray, did you hear the councilman's question?
Well, I couldn't totally make it out other than, could you repeat, just give me a summary?
I'm going to paraphrase. The first question is why sell a building without a home to go to? And the second is how are we going to make sure that there are not individuals sleeping, waiting for buses when they've done a really good job at making this area a nice area for the citizens of Sparks?
Oh, okay. Well, as far as why we don't have a home to go to, I think that, we've been in discussions with RTC for, I think it's going on 3 years now. We've made efforts to, initially, we started at the Amtrak station, and then we were directed to 4th Street Station. And then we went to look at Sparks, and then we went back to 4th Street Station. And over about 3 years, we've been looking for a home, and we've gotten really close. The leases have been prepared and approved by respective legal departments. And for whatever reason, we just haven't been able to get there. So that's why we're here without a home. As far as ensuring how we're going to make sure that the facility is properly managed to prevent people from sleeping and loitering and that kind of thing. That is something that we think right now is a function of where the Greyhound station is. It's in an area where unfortunately many cities are experiencing a high degree of just homelessness around the country, and Reno is no exception to that. So we're a victim of that. And what we have found is when we move to an area where that does not attract that type of situation with homeless, the Greyhound's operation has improved as well, because we're a victim of it as well. Our passengers are looking to get from point A to point B, or they're on a bus and they're passing through, and they have no intention of staying there. So we have experienced, in fact, the image that I showed you on Fresno was a very good example of that. When we moved from, we had an owned property in the more downtown part of Fresno that had a fair amount of homelessness there, and that was a concern. Your same question was a concern there of some of the folks there near the Santa Fe Depot, and in that case, the Fresno Police Department presented there at the meeting similar to this one, and they spoke on Greyhound's behalf and indicated that Greyhound was not the problem. The problem was just what was there in the city, and we were as much a victim. And what we have found, when we moved to the new station there in Fresno, is that the problem did not follow us.
Ray, can I
because it was an
just,
area that was better.
what I'm hoping for, and I hope the answer isn't that, and I mean this, is that our police just has to come up with an answer to how to figure out to deal with the problem, because you're kind of seem to create a little bit of a magnet for something that we don't want possibly there. So I just want to be careful, and I'd like to know how you might choose to mitigate that. Don't answer that now, but I think that's something we're going to be looking for, is what is your answer and what are you doing to not wait to see if it happens, but to help make sure it doesn't happen. So that would be my request, and that's what I would be hoping for. Thank you.
Okay, this is Mayor again. I've got my train of thought back. The real estate transaction is another one that concerns me, Jody. And Ray, it's, let's be honest here. The building was sold, or the terminal was sold, because the highest and best use was not for a bus terminal. It was for something else that somebody was going to develop, and you guys, Greyhound, made a nice profit on the deal, I'm sure. So, you know what, let's be honest, let's follow the money there. It's all about why it was sold and why you're not there. And the thing again is, you keep talking about, you looked here, you looked there, you looked everywhere, and then all of a sudden, the last place you had to go was Sparks. We're a god dang wreck. We're a damn redheaded stepchild once again. We get treated very badly every time we get stuck with something we don't want. And this is, first of all, if I was the person at Greyhound, I would have somebody here in person, okay? I'm sorry, Ray, that you're not here. You should be. For something that's this important to a city and taking over our bus terminal, I'm very angry about that. I'm not so much angry that you're coming. I understand it, why you're coming. I am very angry that you're not here to defend yourself. Again, I am just really, really angry about that. So, and again, here we go. We've been treated again like the redheaded stepchild. We're the last and worst option that you have. You'd obviously been somewhere else if you could have worked something out. So once again, we get something shoved down our throat that we don't want. So I'll turn it over to somebody else for questions. Charlene.
Thank you. My big question, because most of this presentation talked about Amtrak and talked about the interline with Amtrak, and that makes sense to me. When a Greyhound bus comes into any community and you are hooked in with Amtrak, people who are taking long-distance trains can get into a community, take Greyhound for the shorter side of their trip, or vice versa. Makes perfect sense for me. This presentation is talking all about Amtrak, and I don't understand why the Amtrak station, which is underused in the city of Reno, that seems to be the perfect location, because for them to be shipped, for them to take their Greyhound passengers, to drop them in Sparks, to pick them up, to go back to Amtrak or the 4th Street station, doesn't make sense. And if you've been down to our Centennial Plaza, you can't even drive in there. If I'm dropping somebody off for Greyhound, I don't even know where I would drive and where I would drop them off. As far as parking and access in the design of our Centennial Plaza right now concerns me. And the impact also on our rapid bus, RTC rapid bus plan for the 4th Street corridor, which we've just done all this work to improve the 4th Street corridor as well as the Virginia Street corridor. And so the rapid bus program that was designed and has a lot of money invested in it to really improve that, how will Greyhound having 14 buses a day, I don't want that to impact what I find is a very needed regional service from Sparks to Reno and up to the university and down south. I mean, that is an important corridor that we finally are developing and providing mass transit and getting people into Victorian Square, getting them out to other parts. And so I'm I'm concerned about the Greyhound input on the rapid bus. And I guess my last comment is Greyhound operating right now at Centennial Plaza? Because on the website, when I went on Greyhound, it shows Centennial Plaza. It lists it as one of the bus stations. And I didn't think we had an agreement, and I was curious on why that was shown when you look online.
Ray, did you hear the final question from Councilman Bybee regarding why Centennial is currently listed as a place of operation?
I could only make out parts of it. Could you kind of summarize?
Oh, she just, currently, the Centennial Plaza is listed as a current operation, and that is not the case. The RTC has not come to an agreement, that there's a contract being negotiated, but it's not final, and it's listed. And she just wanted to see if, in fact, Greyhound was operating out of Centennial Plaza, and I believe the answer to that is no, not currently. I just
The
wanted-
answer is no, yes, we have not, right.
See, Ray, if you were here, you'd have heard that question. Ron Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, you know, this may be RTC's fault in a certain way, because we've been kicking the can down the road on Fourth Street Station. The fact is, we're obligated by federal law to provide space. There is no space at Fourth Street Station because of the addition of 17 new electric buses. But that being said, Ray, and I hope you can hear me, Ray, you should be here today. You're making your representative act like she doesn't know what's going on. It's not her fault. But you did this also with RTC when when you didn't show up for certain meetings. So for me, I want you here at the next meeting, and we'll put it back on the agenda. That's the way I feel.
Mr. Lawson.
Jody, I'm going to apologize in advance, but quite frankly, that's the worst presentation I've ever seen. If this is indicative of the way Greyhound runs their business, we shouldn't have to worry about them being in town.
Thank you.
Because this is just absolutely, this is the first I've heard about it. I mean, why didn't someone reach out to me and tell me that we're going to put 14 buses a day in downtown Sparks? I've not heard that from not one person. So I'm quite frankly, I'm disappointed, number one, that Mr. Ray is not here, and number two, that this presentation is full of nonsense. And not once did you mention Sparks in there. I was assuming when I read the presentation earlier today that this was going in Reno. Not until I saw the signage in Sparks did I realize it was coming to Sparks. Two distinct cities, two distinct identities, and quite frankly, worst presentation ever.
Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. So with Greyhound, if Greyhound does come or wherever they do go, what benefits has a city seen by them showing up and operating?
Ray, what benefits has Greyhounds moving to a city? What benefits have there been, is the question from Councilman Abbott.
I guess for the city.
For the city.
What benefits for the city, just in general?
Yes, please. And I just want to make sure you heard the mayor's, Councilman Smith's and Councilman Lawson's presentation. They're frankly not thrilled with us.
Yeah, okay, well, I think I heard, the comment about worst presentation. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. And as far as not being there, I would have been there. There was just a conflict with the, where I had to, be on the other side of the country versus there. But I can assure you that, I've been to Reno many times, and for meetings like this.
Good place to go,
Unfortunately, I
Reno
wasn't
is.
there today.
Hey, Ray, did you have trouble finding a bus to get you here or something, or what? I heard Greyhound comes to Reno and they would have transferred you over to Sparks.
You know, can we terminate this presentation?
Ray, I think they're going to pull the plug on us, and we're going to get the proper presentation to them regarding the city of Sparks, since that is where all the action is happening out of respect for the city. And
Okay.
maybe we can see if we can get on the next agenda and get you here in town.
We would like to get it on the
Very
agenda
well.
again. I don't know about the next one, but soon on the agenda. And we'll have it under a public hearing item maybe, or an item that the public can weigh in if they want. And it'll be on the record better than this. We'll have public comment and that kind of stuff. So, and I know you understand the process, Jody. And again, I apologize to you. Not your fault here. I'm sorry that and Ed, you're pretty well right on. So, let's end this and try to get it back on the agenda sometime, Mr. Manager, to rediscuss it. And we want to make sure if it's not Ray, please, somebody from Greyhound be here and show that they're interested in bringing this thing to us here, and that they're interested in us weighing in and giving them some comments and things. So we'd appreciate that. Thanks,
Jody,
Ray.
tell them that this is a priority if they want to be online December 1st, and I know that's what they want to
Yes,
be.
sir.
So they better get their act together.
All right, Ray, I will call you after I walk out of the chambers.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, very good.
That's what we-
Thank you for your time.
We haven't done anything yet.
Okay, so December 9th.
Thank you, everyone. We'll do better next time.
Thanks, Jody.
Thanks, Jody. Not your fault. I apologize.
I can run in hills.
Did you hang up the phone?
Now, those,
Did
for
you hang
those
up the
people
phone?
in the audience, we love Jody. She's great, okay? Don't get me wrong. Okay, presentation 7.3, Be Safe, Be Seen, Silver Project Girl Scouts. Anybody here to do this from the Girl Scouts? Come on up, sweetheart.
Prove that you're a Girl Scout.
Give us your name for the record, please.
Priyasha Landry.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you?
I'm gonna run to the bathroom.
Get that presentation off there. That was the worst presentation. You didn't even know what city you're going into.
now from this dynamic young lady who's speaking to us.
Know what city you're doing business in.
Business, do business.
He's like, yeah, what's up about Ringo? I'm like, does he know the word Sparks?
See, that makes me angry.
Did you already tell them your name?
You know, I realize maybe they had, yeah.
4th Street is basically.
Again, we're the last.
Okay, Mayor and Council, we're going to go ahead and show you a video that she prepared, and then she'll do a
Perfect.
quick presentation.
Not a problem.
We are cadets from Troop 1019. My name is Priyasha. My name is Elizabeth. My name is Elizabeth. This is my brunch project, Be Safe, Be Seen. Using the flags is a safe way to cross the street. Crossing in a group, you only need one flag. When you are crossing the street, make sure you get the driver's attention and walk across quickly and safely. When you're crossing the street, make sure to have the flag high and roll it up neatly when you're done. When you're crossing the street, make sure to do it quickly, safely, and stay off the phones. When you are done crossing the street, make sure you roll up your flag and put it neatly back into the phone. Be safe, be seen.
Awesome. Now, was that you there in the film?
Yeah.
You're a natural. You'll be a TV star someday. And right now, do you know you're being watched by 2 million people?
No.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry. Please give us your presentation. We appreciate you being here. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Priyasha Landry, and I'm 12 years old. I'm in 7th grade at Billinghurst Middle School, and I'm a second-year cadet with Girl Scouts. First, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to be here and for the chance to show you why it is critical to increase the safety for all students like me while we walk to and from school daily. Most parents that drive their kids to school are in a hurry. Maybe they have an appointment or are running late to an important meeting. Some are simply distracted by a toddler in the back seat, and most of us are guilty of being distracted by the phone or the radio. Virtually everyone, pedestrians and drivers, are plugged into cell phones and earbuds. These are just a few factors that make the roads a dangerous place for people, along with speeding and alcohol abuse. School safety is the #1 issue for most parents, especially since the school bus stop has now been increased by a quarter of a mile. This means that many school students will be crossing busy streets, and in some cases, multiple roadways to school. It also means that potentially 3,787 students will have to find their own way to school this year. They'll either have to walk to school or must find some other form of transportation. With the continued growth of the city of Reno, there are many new apartment complexes along with houses that are being built. All this new growth will have more devastating impacts on the roads, and road rage will continue to be on the rise. In Nevada, there were 99 pedestrian deaths in 2017, and that was an increase from 80 deaths in 2016. A 15-year-old girl named Allie was killed last summer on the corner of Plum Lane and Krupp Circle. A few months later, a new crosswalk was installed a block west of where Allie was killed. Is this what it takes to make a difference when it comes to keeping kids safe? There are unacceptable levels of pedestrian crash fatalities and serious injuries in Reno. The terrible news of a little girl being hit and killed by a UPS truck recently in DeMonte Ranch shook the community. In February, a man was hit outside of KFC on Mayan. In November of 2017, another teenager was hit on Stead and Lear Boulevard. The list is long, and these show that adults, along with students, are victims. Every death on Nevada roads is a tragedy, and a loved one will not be coming home. One split second being distracted as a driver or pedestrian makes an irreversible impact. In August of 2015, a girl in second grade named Angelina walked to school with her sister and grandmother. As she was walking to school, she stepped off the sidewalk onto the pedestrian crossing. In a split second, she was hit. She legally had the right of way, but still a huge truck struck her tiny body, and there she lay in the street. In that moment, her day was changed forever. But luckily for Angelina, she survived, but she was traumatized and no longer felt safe to walk to school. I visited her in the hospital and listened to the concerns of her very upset parents. At the intersection of Mayan and Avenida de Landa, there was a need for more safety and a safer route to school. Drivers are unable to see kids on this crosswalk due to the morning sunlight in their eyes. Be Safe, Be Seen was developed as my Bronze project. This was a pilot program that was implemented with the help of Vice Mayor Neoma Jardon and Councilwoman Jenny Burgess. I had first seen the ideas of flags in Oregon, and a similar idea of waving your hand to the driver in Vermont. The bright orange flags would make kids much more visible to drivers after they have made eye contact. A student or a group of students will pick up a flag, wave it to the driver, and then cross the street. Once they get to the other side, they will roll up the flag and place it back into the bucket on that side of the street. Since the flags have been installed, we have lost 17 out of 60 flags in 2 years. At first, it seemed like we lost a flag daily, but once the kids and community adjust to the new system, it was not much of an issue anymore. Every day, someone you love crosses the street, not just kids, but adults too. All parents need to work together to help keep all kids safer. We need parents to understand that speeding, U-turns, parking in red zones, and dropping kids off in unsafe areas will continue to make an unsafe environment for students. The flag program in the Northwest has been successful, and I stand here today to ask you to consider installing the flags at several other schools and several other busy intersections. My goal and plan will be to work with several schools, along with the PTO and principal, to create a safety patrol at each location. I hope to make a better video with professional help and teach all schools how to use the flags. Several students at each school can be elected to be a part of the safety patrol. They will be dismissed 5 minutes prior to the bell and will wear safety vests. They will then monitor the students using the flags, along with the guidance of a crossing guard. In addition to the flags at several schools, I would like to ask the City of Sparks to grant permission for banners to be hung on street lamp poles. I will show you some examples in the PowerPoint shortly, and I will also show you safety pedestrian messages to be painted on sidewalks. This program should not just be in Reno, but it should be Reno and Sparks. It should be statewide. It'd be better if the poles had reflective tape. I'm sure it will be difficult to pass a law to use the flags, but I would like to start by asking the school district and the city of Sparks for a policy change so that students and adults will use the flags to make themselves more visible. If a student intentionally puts themselves in harm's way, I think they should watch this safety video and volunteer to teach others how to use the flags. This is a small way to help make kids and adults more visible to drivers. This will be successful with lots of education, training, and media coverage. A citywide campaign for Be Safe, Be Seen will make many people aware of these safety efforts. I am aware of the Zero Fatalities Nevada campaign. I've seen the decals on the sidewalks around the UNR campus to warn pedestrians of the dangers. I think it would be a great idea to have art students use outdoor paint and paint sidewalks around school crossings with messages like the ones already put around the UNR campus. I'll show you that in the PowerPoint. This can be something that will slow pedestrians down, and they can take on the responsibility of keeping themselves safer. In addition to artwork, I would love to see school buses and public buses with safety messages. As we all know, pedestrians are not always safe, even when they have the right of way. I'm sure you are wondering how this will all be paid for. I'm looking to partner up with several of you to help me fund this project, and I'm also looking for someone to help me write a grant to fund this campaign. I know there are lots of ways to find the funding, but I need your help. I would love to reach out to businesses in the area where the flags will be located. They can be a part of this amazing change and give back to the community. Let's invest in the children today because they are the future. All these added ideas for the More Flags in Education campaign will help me earn my silver award with Girl Scouts of the Sierra Nevada and make this a safer community. I know I'm little, but but I can make a difference with your help and support. Thank you for believing in my vision. Okay, so this is when we made a skit and we showed the PTO how the flags were gonna work. And then here we were collecting data to see how much traffic there is in the morning and in the afternoons. This was when we were getting permission from the Reno City Hall. This is when the poles and flags were getting installed. This was a walk to school day where we asked our school put our picture in on a paper and it got sent out. This is an example of a decal around the UNR campus, and it says crossing distracted is just as deadly. This is what I was picturing, more 3D. This is an example of jaywalking. We didn't find this near UNR, but this was another example, and that was my vision. That's an example of a U-turn and someone parking in a red zone. Visual signs will be a constant reminder to make safer choices. Here are some of my visions for the city of Sparks and the city of Reno. This is a billboard. And a message on a school bus. This is the Heads Up campaign in the city of Eureka. I was thinking of a similar campaign in the city of Sparks and Reno because the children in our community are just as important as the kids in Eureka. These are also some more examples of what could be painted on sidewalks. And more. This was what I was thinking of for the street lamp poles. Please support my vision to keep pedestrians and Sparks in Reno safer. Make sure drivers can see you. Be safe, be smart, be seen. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the presentation. That was very nice. So you're looking for Sparks to do some signs with pole things to put your yellow or orange signs in? Is that what you're hoping for us to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just ask, Mr. Manager, you're taking notes or, yeah, I was gonna say, I think Amber Sosa would be perfect for this, right, Amber? Yeah, I know you would. She's shaking her head, yes. So if maybe you, Steve, could hook her up with the young lady, or if you want to talk, see the lady back there? Wave your hand. Oh, you've met her. Okay, so you know her. She could probably be your contact person, and she'll help you out, and we'll hopefully get this done for you. I think it's a great idea, though. Any other comments, Ms. Charlene?
Priyasha, I know this dynamic young woman because I see her everywhere with more projects and more things at other events at the school district, buddy benches. She's everywhere doing amazing things in this community. So I commend you personally and your troop, and I would love to see this project come to schools in Sparks. And we've often talked about the number one complaint we get in this city is speeding. So that falls into our traffic safety. But I know these flags, I've seen them in the Bay Area in a couple of towns that downtown where people are crossing all the time that have the red or the orange flags. And they are effective because you see them. The driver does see the person crossing, and I think it makes a tremendous difference in safety. And I love the idea of starting in the school areas, but whether we would look for something in other parts of town that have a lot of pedestrians for the future, but starting at the school sites, I think would be great. So I encourage you, and we'll do what we can, and I will also personally, but thank you for coming and for your presentation and for what you're doing to make this community a better community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll be, you'll be talking to Amber. We'll get something going, we hope.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Got a future in marketing.
Okay, let's go to seven.
In leadership.
That was a much better presentation, wasn't it?
I told you were going to get a better one from her.
I was waiting for that one.
Did a lot better than a national number.
Yeah.
Did a lot better than Ray, you think?
I told him before she started.
More homework.
Let's move on to 7.4, presentation Lime Bike Demonstration of Bikes and Scooters. I can demonstrate my scooter if you like. It's not a Lime scooter, but
Martini.
You'll call.
say what? Public comment? Yeah,
Mayor will call for it.
yeah, let's let him do his presentation, and then I'll call you for, I have the speaker cards here, so we'll call you. We'll call you up. Miss Townsend, right? Okay, Chastity.
Yeah, it's up here. Great. Well, thank you so much for inviting us for this presentation. This is an update of the bicycle introduction to City of Sparks. We can't do this without you guys, and we're really excited to really show you what's been progress since May 24th when we first launched. So a couple of bullet points, as we said. We launched actually May 14th, pardon. And some of the things that we've noticed is that there's been a heavy ridership along the green spaces of City of Sparks and along the corridor of Victoria Avenue, specifically around the historic area where there's a lot of businesses. An area that was discussed with Amber and an area that has been very flourishing. and I'll show you how that looks. So this is a heat map of the city of Sparks with how our ridership has progressed since May 14th. To the right, you'll see the marina in red. The darker the color, the heavier the ridership. That is an area that has been very popular amongst locals and is something that we're very proud to have maintained on a daily basis. We have operations that run over 12 hours a day from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., 2 shifts, and we're very proud of making sure that if there's any concerns or from the community present at the marina or via online, because they can call us, text us, or email us, they're addressed on a timely manner. And then, as you can tell towards the right, the other red area is Victoria Avenue. That's the concentration of where a lot of the businesses are at. And we've seen that very, it was predicted, but we didn't think it was going to be that fulfilled. 2 things to point out on this data set. We've also noticed that some of the red lines filter into the local community. That is something that we don't know what's going on, but it's something that the community has benefited locally. Some of it could be they're going to the store, some of it could just be going to work, they might be working at the Nugget, but it's something we can take a deeper dive, and we're welcome if you have any questions or answer questions or concerns about how to take a deeper dive on that data, we welcome that as well. And then the last point is there's a red line that cuts right across all the way to Galt Way. This is something that often stands out in many other cities. And this is something that I really want to address is it seems like it's an individual, but I'll just say it's more than one for now. This person is going up Pyramid Way, but instead of going all the way up, they decide to turn on J Street and take a safer route on 44th Street. This means many things. It means that, one, there's not a particular bike lane available, a protected lane is not available, and they feel they'd rather take the longer route home. These are opportunities that we would love to share and with your city planners and say, hey, like this is hard data that we can sit down with you guys and say, if you're gonna make an investment, how can we modify or adjust or improve on the master plan that the city has? Now, this is a small scope of it, but we can definitely expand on it, and this is something that we would love to work together to make sure that it is a viable solution.
You know, all due respect with that in mind.
Yeah.
I think the city knows where we want to put bicycle lanes, and that would be definitely one. But having said that, it's easier said than done to attain property and that kind of stuff on a busy highway like that. I mean, I know we want to put a bicycle lane there, but just line bike or whatever, tell me how we can do that and get the property to do it. I'd love to know that. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So to jump a little bit into the data numbers, since May 14th, I submitted this presentation as is 2 weeks ago, so the numbers are actually higher. But since then, we've had a cumulative over 13,000 riders with a total rate of 15,000 miles actually ridden cumulatively. Those are miles that never existed beforehand because the ridership and the vehicles were not available. But if you jump back to the heat map, it's just within this area. That's pretty extraordinary.
That's just in Sparks in this area?
That's just in this area,
okay.
exactly.
Wow.
So when we look at those numbers, we're also we're bringing people more out to the public space. People are encouraged to buy more at local businesses, something that otherwise they would have had to walk or take a car. And obviously, there's always a concern with many cities, not just locally, but abroad, is that where's the parking? It's going to be an issue as increased development and increased population come into Sparks because you guys are growing. And we love how we've been able to kind of already give you that snapshot and that foreshadow of what's to come. And then last but not least, to really make a statement about the leisure of why people are writing it, of how long people are writing it. On average, for a company, people write it about 10 minutes. But for you guys, they're writing it up to 42. So a lot of that could be they stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. And that could be because of family activities, because they're visiting a friend. So the social impact is actually increasing around that area. Here, just some also other data points as far as health and environment. These are concerns that have been brought up earlier in earlier presentations. One, we cumulatively, riders have burnt over 1 million calories. That increases health, it increases exercise, and increases happiness overall, right? It's a fun fact that translates to about 800 Big Macs. No big deal, but it is something to think about. In terms of actual sustainability goals for the city, we've taken the miles that we have ridden on our bikes. It translates to about over 13,000 cumulative miles for cars. We've actually saved the city 14,000 CO2 pounds of being contributed to the air, and 360 pounds of CO to the city. So we actually can improve and will continue to improve on this air quality in the popular areas of City of Sparks. I also want to mention, since day one, we haven't let go of the safety. It's been something that's been constant. It's the number one priority for the company, and we're always listening to our constituents and partners like yourselves. Here, I just have some examples of some of the snapshots that we have. These are kind of, be careful when you go in certain areas. Please wear a helmet. Watch out for the road, and please park safely. Here are other snapshots. There's some of the videos that we have. Our videos exist on social media platforms, on our landing page, also via our Instagram account, and they're all on YouTube as well. So if anybody has any questions, they can always reach out to them as well. Also, when there's a new rider, the rider is forced to go through in-app messaging. And what does that mean? There's a series of 6 or 7 screenshots that tells the rider, when you ride, please consider this when you ride locally. Wear a helmet, ride on the right side of the road, not on the sidewalk, but on the street. And when you park, please park responsibly. Here are some other examples that we have that we do with local marketing with our team. Again, it's reiterating a lot of the hand signals and ridership for the local users. And then as well, the bike itself has local messaging, and it says, you have to be 18 and over. You have to look both ways when you ride the bike, and please wear a helmet. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you listening to us. If you have any questions and concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. I am the General Manager, City Launcher of the region. I also manage Tahoe and City of Sparks and Reno. I'm very well versed in a lot of the concerns that come up a lot, and I'm here to do my best to make sure you guys are heard. Thank you so much.
Now we have a couple of comments as well. We have Chastity Lou Townsend, if you want to come down and make your comments now, please, and then followed by Nolan. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mayor and City Council. I appreciate it.
Go ahead and have a seat so you can speak into the microphone, dear.
Go ahead, I'll share.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me today. I do appreciate it. I work for Lime Bike, and I'm also a Sparks resident. It's funny that you guys were talking about Centennial Plaza, because I live at the Fountain House Apartments, literally right across the street. So Victorian Avenue in Sparks is literally my backyard. I have a passion for my city and for my community. I'm also well known for cleaning up Rock Park, Trash Island. Lime to me represents a better community. It just represents cleaner air and happier people. For me, myself, I didn't ride bikes very much. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016 and decided I needed to have a better, healthier way of life. And so I decided to ride bikes. And then I heard about Lime, and I found out that I could work for Lime. And I have to tell you, it really has changed the way I feel about exercising on a budget, about getting out and talking to the community. I love reaching out. The stories I hear when I'm deploying bikes, like for instance, at the marina. I recently just helped a women's battered shelter group, Life Changes Inc., gave them free rides around the marina and helped them exercise on a budget. It's especially close to my heart that I have the opportunity to help the community and help people individually. And I just wanted you guys to know how much this actual company means to me and the impact that it has on our city. It's dear to my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Nolan McKiernan. You know, one thing before you start, Nolan, every morning I come to work, I always see 3 to 10 maybe Lime bikes parked on the city property there just at the entrance. So I don't know if people are bringing them to work or it's people dropping them off or whatever, going otherwise riding the bus or whatever, I don't know. But there's always 3 to 10 bikes on the Sparks City property here. So that's a good sign.
That could be like numerous things. So I'm a driver thank you for having me, by the way, Mayor and City Council. So that could be numerous things, whether it's riders just dropping them off. I'm a driver, in which we go around trying to pick up the stray bikes and put them back in specific hotspots and locations. I'm also a new resident to the Reno Sparks area. I'm coming from California, and we also have Lime Bike that's been initiated down in Southern California with the scooters and the bicycles. And so being here recently, I've only been here for about a month. I really enjoy the area. I think that Lime Bike is an amazing company just to get people off their butt, going around, moving around and getting some exercise. Great company to work for. There's, like Caesar said, there's a lot of room for improvement, and a lot of that also takes from the local areas to give us what we need for specific spots to stage bikes and make it more safer for the community. Coming up here just this summer with the air quality, horrible. So with Lime Bike especially, contributing to our air quality to make it more safer, I guess, or just better without, I don't know, I can't find a word for that. Anyways, I just wanted to put in some input just for working for this company and being new resident here. I think it's a great jump start to making the community just a better place in general. That's all I really have to say for now.
Well, let me ask you a question, Nolan. Can Lime bikes put fires out?
Lime bikes can't put fires out.
Because that's why we had all the bad air.
But I can put fires out. Well, when I was in the Navy. But
we don't normally have that bad air, okay?
No, true. Also, I wanted to say, just moving here, there is a big difference between California and in Reno, especially. And I'm sorry if if it's my fault for coming here, and I'm one of the other guys that just came here. I'm taking all the jobs. And
We're
stuff.
trying to convert you. It's all right.
But I'm at a loss. I had something so important
The
to
deal
say.
is, Nolan, just to let you know, we call anything west of us the dark side.
The dark side. Okay.
That includes Reno and
say Reno,
California,
too.
Right. I just want to thank you for my time, for having me up here and stuff. I just think it's a great company to get launching. We're expanding extremely fast, and I hope it's not a cancerous growth, which I don't think it is. I think it's just it's one of the most simplistic modes of transportation. We had a $1.1 billion contract with Uber. It's huge. So, yeah.
I agree. It's good stuff.
All right. Thank you so much.
And the thing is, we're getting younger people here to come here too that are they trend towards bicycles, whereas old people don't have a clue about bicycles and things, but so it's all good. And like I say, I see a lot of Lime bikes around, so I know people are using them, which is good.
Right.
And those numbers you put up there, 13,000 miles or whatever, I'm shocked. It's a lot. To me, it seems like a lot. Maybe to you, you've seen a lot of this. Maybe that's not a lot to you.
For a short, really specific area,
Yeah.
it's tremendous.
Okay, that's what I'm
And
thinking.
we try our hardest to, keep them off the streets and, not have them being less in like stray areas and stuff. So,
Any questions or anything for the folks? Lime bikes? So you had a demonstration. I don't know that we have time to do that. Oh, go ahead, Christopher. I'm sorry.
I want to say that I think it's been great watching the. I messed you up. It's been great watching all the bikes go around and things. I do want to say that I've heard a little bit. Some of the neighborhoods are not getting prompt pickup. I just put that on your radar when we have stuff sitting in neighbors and neighbors are complaining a little bit. We don't want that. So please, I don't know, get better attention to that. I know that we're talking a little bit of the presentation to do with scooters. Me personally, I don't remember talking about scooters from the beginning. I don't know that I really actually like the idea of scooters. I just need to say that at large. I don't know you're really asking my opinion of that or not today,
No, not at all.
but I want to give it anyway.
I'm kidding.
I'm fitting in around here now. I was giving my opinion, but I just want to.
So you're fitting
Exactly.
in. You're fitting in, but nobody's paying attention.
Exactly. Well, but I'm quite concerned about it. I don't know that it's something that is a good fit for us, and I don't know if it's some. Like I said, I'm a little confused because I don't believe this was what we agreed to in the very beginning. That I don't remember seeing anything about scooters, so I don't know that I like the idea that we're moving forward with that.
So scooter's coming for sure?
So,
Go ahead.
so I have to address your questions. Thank you, Nolan.
Thank you, Nolan.
As far as bikes in the neighborhoods, we do have a filtering system in our app for our employees, and that's something we've been pushing for to make sure that in the training, they follow up if it's been sitting there for more than a day, 2, 3, or 7 days. So that's something we can definitely push for more on that. In terms of the actual scooters, the contract does include electric scooters as one of the vehicles that we can introduce into the city. One of the concerns earlier mentioned in a previous presentation was speed. Speed for cars, speed for anything. Personally, the park ranger at the city marina said, we love the bikes because the speed is just enough so that it doesn't really hinder any families being around, anybody walking around, that nobody's actually in danger of that. I want to announce that we are working on a way where we can geofence specifically just the marina so that the speed of the actual vehicle, referencing to the scooter, actually slows down to a measurable amount. So the top speed is 15 miles per hour, and we're trying to see if we can bring it down to 8 to 10. This is a request that many other cities have made. We are in over 30 markets. Only a few have asked for this, but it's something we are listening, and we want to make sure that we can still be that viable transportation for the community.
The top end on my scooter is 7, and I haven't killed anybody yet. That could be a good starting point, maybe.
Yes.
Does that kind of answer your question, Christopher?
Not
It's okay.
fully. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know that
Tone
we.
them down?
It'd be great to tone them down. I just know it's not even on our books in a sense. There's in the city of Sparks, you're not supposed to be actually have them, and so us to introduce something that is not on our books seems kind of strange. And so I don't know. The whole thing seems weird to me, and I don't know that it should be something that you're doing. The bikes I like, but I just think it's important to be said.
Anybody else? Okay. Thanks, folks. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sorry, we were running over time, couldn't do the demonstration, but I'll give a demonstration of my scooter for him, okay?
No problems.
Okay, let's move on to consent items. Anybody want to pull a consent item? If not, looking for a motion? Well, let's just wait 1 minute till the folks clear out here. Those are kind of weird. Cycle? Okay, you guys ready?
Yep.
Okay, looking for a motion on consent items. Mr. Smith,
Move to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.5.
have a second. Mr. Abbott. Second. A motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Abbott to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.5. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Mr. Lawson? Passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to general business. Consideration and possible approval of an interlocal agreement, AC 5508, between the City of Reno on behalf of Reno Police Department, Washoe County, on behalf of Washoe County Sheriff's Office, and the City of Sparks on behalf of Sparks Police Department for the management and disposition of 2018 Justice Assistance Grant JAG Program Award in the amount of $20,841. Chief Allen, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Chief Allen for the record. This is the annual time of year where we come before you and ask you to support our interlocal agreement with the City of Reno and Washoe County in the Department of Justice Assistant Grant Program. This year, as you guys have heard in the past, we look at it individually each year to determine whether or not it is most beneficial for the City of Sparks to partner with Reno and the county following the shared agreement process, or to file for these funds individually. Again, this year, it made more financial sense, and we get a higher dollar amount from the Department of Justice if we partner with the City of Reno and the city, or Washoe County, in the application of the Justice Assistance Grant formula. So this year, the total amount being given to the area is just approximately $144,000, following the breakdown that we do of 40-40-20 split. Our portion would be $28,841. And this would be, the program would be monitored and by the City of Reno, and we would have our delegated funds available to us once the federal government passes their budgets on or around October 1st of this year. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Questions for Chief Allen? None? Okay, looking for a motion. Mr. Dare.
I move to accept and approve the interlocal agreement with the City of Reno, Washoe County, and the City of Sparks for the management and disposition of the 2018 Justice Assistant Grant Program Award in the amount of $28,841.
Second, Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve the agenda item as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. 9.2, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of contract AC 5509 with Western Single Ply to install a new roof on the laboratory building located at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility in an amount not to exceed $489,400. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor-elect, and City Council. For the record, Kim Labor, Maintenance Manager at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. 9.2 is a request for the City Council to approve a contract with Western Single Ply for a roof replacement on the laboratory building at the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. The current roof is way past its useful life. It's over 30 years old, and we're starting to experience some leaks in the laboratory building. There's some expensive equipment in the lab building. Several pieces of the equipment are over $200,000. So we're looking forward to getting this roof replaced before this winter comes. We got 2 quotes on this project. Western Single Ply was the low bidder. We had another bid from Contract West Roofing. We also had a pre-bid at the plant and had some local roofing contractors there. Unfortunately, with the construction going on in the area, they were booked out at least a year and beyond, and didn't bid on this project. So with that, I'd answer any questions.
Is this our share of this, or is this all on us?
This
We
is.
normally we share with Reno, or?
Yeah, City of Sparks' share would be approximately 1/3, and then Reno would pick up the other 2/3. This is coming out of the Tumwharf operating budget, but that's still split approximately 1/3, 2/3.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, looking for a motion? Grab it.
I move to approve the contract with Western Single Ply to install a new roof on the laboratory building located at Tumwharf in the amount not to exceed $489,400.
Ms. Bybee.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 9.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please display so we can vote. Hello? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 9.3 will be heard after 11.1, so let's move on to 9.4. Consideration of possible approval of a tentative map request for a 39-lot, single-family residential subdivision on a site 5.38 acres in size in the SF6 Single-Family Residential 6,000 square foot lots zoning district located at 3550 and 3650 Whittakin Road, Sparks, Nevada. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Jonathan Cummins, Assistant Planner. So the site for this tentative map request is located on the southeast corner, near the southeast corner of Whittakin and El Rancho Drive, outlined in blue in the image.
It's not cyan, it's blue.
It is cyan, sir.
Okay, good, all right. Where's Miss Melby? Where'd she go?
Karen is cyan.
Hopefully she heard that word. She
I hope so too.
These properties in question were annexed earlier this year, as well as subsequent rezoning to SF6 zoning and a land use designation of IDR, intermediate density residential. The main access to the site will be off Garfield Road, directly to the south of the property, which runs along the Sparks Nazarene Church, there on the frontage of El Rancho Drive, on the westernmost part of the parcel. There will be emergency access, gated emergency access on the northwestern portion of the properties outlined in blue. So the project will incorporate a mix of lot sizes ranging from just over 3,200 square feet to just over 8,000 square feet. The code requires that small lot development, which those smaller lots would involve, that the smaller lot development meet two requirements. The first being that the density maximum not be exceeded. In this case, the density maximum is 7.3 dwelling units per acre. This project will be 7.25 dwelling units per acre. Second requirement being that the undeveloped parts of the subdivision be deed restricted as common areas. So tentative maps require that staff make the following, present to you the following 12 findings. Finding T1 is conformance with the comprehensive plan. Staff believes that the proposed subdivision meets goal CF1, which is to require that adequate services be available at the site. Goal MG6, which promotes compact development, reducing impacts on the city. Policy H1, that appropriate zoning exists throughout the city for new housing. Policy H2, to promote a variety of housing types. And policy CC8, fostering neighborhood diversity. Finding T2 requires conformance with the street master plan. Streets internal to the project will be privately owned and maintained by a homeowners association. Finding T3, that appropriate health laws and regulations be met. Staff received no comments from those agencies. Finding T4 requires us to address the availability of water. Truckee Meadows Water Authority will serve the site and the appropriate water rates are in place currently. Finding T5 is the availability of utilities. The city will be the sewer service provider for this project. The developer will be required to make necessary improvements to hook up to city sewer prior to the final map stage. Finding T6 requires us to address the availability of other public services. We received comment from the school district that there will be 3 new elementary school students at Risley Elementary, 1 new middle school student at Sparks Middle, and 1 new high school student to go to Hug High School. Police and fire are already served by the city of Sparks. RTC provided comments to guide the design in accordance with their standards as well. Finding T7 requires that impacts on existing streets and highways be addressed. The applicant stated that less than 80 peak hour trips will be generated, therefore no traffic study will be required. T8 requires that physical characteristics of land, floodplain, slope, and soil be addressed. The final hydrological and geotechnical reports will be required prior to the final map. The slope, if you're familiar with the site, there's a little bit of a slope going up towards Wedekind, but it doesn't exceed the 10% grade, which would be the trigger for hillside development per the Sparks Municipal Code. Finding T9 requires review by any other outside agencies. As I stated earlier, we've only received comment from the school district and RTC on this project. Finding T10 requires specifically to address fire protection. The site does fall within Sparks' 6-minute response time. Finding T11, any other identified impacts would be addressed at this stage. Landscaping and architecture, which appear as conditions in the staff report, will be addressed prior to the final map as well. And finding T12 requires that public notice be given, which for the Planning Commission and today's City Council meeting, the posting of those agendas serves as that requirement. The Planning Commission has forwarded a recommendation of approval to the City Council, and I will be happy to take questions.
Questions for Jonathan? No one? Okay, looking for a motion. Should be. Hold on, not going anywhere.
I was daydreaming. I'm trying to figure out if those were 49-foot cul-de-sacs.
You're still talking, you're still thinking about Greyhound. So.
Still thinking about Greyhound.
All right. Move to approve the tentative map request for 39 single-family lot residential subdivision on a site of, am I in the right place, 5.38 acres in size, SF6, single-family residential, 6,000. You gotta write shorter motions. Zoning district located at 3550 and 3650 Wedekind Road, Sparks, Nevada. adopt findings T1 through T12 and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval of 1 through 14 as listed in the staff report.
Do I have a second, Ms. Bybee?
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Lawson, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve agenda item 9.4 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Okay, let's move on to 9.5. Consideration, discussion, possible approval and adoption of a classification system of compensation program, including the acceptance of the June 2018 Corn Ferry Hay Group compensation study with a financial impact of $212,500 in FY19, of $608,000 in fiscal year 2020, and $920,000 in fiscal year 2021. Go ahead, kids, and then, this is not a public hearing item of any sort, but I do have a letter that I would like to read, and then have you, please make comments, and answer the questions asked by this particular letter. Normally, we don't do that, but this is something I think is very important and having to do with us being transparent in this consideration of these contracts and things. I think it's something that has to be read and answered at the podium, if that's okay with you folks. Okay? Of course. So go ahead, make your presentation, then I'll get to the letter.
For the record, I'm Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager.
And Mindy Falk, Human Resources Manager.
And then, is that acceptable to the council? Any problem with that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's go.
Do you have an email also?
No, I do not have the email. I did
Have
not
an
get an
email
email.
also.
Okay, you can read that.
Yes,
too.
sir.
All right. Go ahead.
I am presenting the citywide classification system and compensation program, including the acceptance of the June 2018 Corn Ferry Hay Group Report, or HAY for short. I am part one of a four-part labor story that will be presented to council today. The later agenda items in public hearing will discuss the impact of the classification system and compensation program as they relate to the individual contracts and resolutions. This project began because the city needed to modernize their classification and compensation system to ensure an impartial and legally defensible process for determining pay. Pay needs to be tied to essential job requirements regardless of gender, race, nationality, disability, and other federal and state protected classes. Additional benefits of the new system include a clear career path, which aids in succession planning, as well as identifying gaps for potential new positions. The classification and compensation study was undertaken in two main phases. First was to establish the classification system. In this stage, 188 of the city's job descriptions were updated for accuracy. This process was accomplished by employee surveys, department employee meetings, manager-employee interviews conducted by HAY. After the job descriptions were updated, HAY applied the proprietary system and assigned city jobs to appropriate levels. The levels range from 8 to 26, 8 being the entry-level positions for the city, and 26 being the city manager's position. It's important to note that city management does not have the discretion to change the leveling once the HAY level is assigned by HAY. The second phase of the project links pay levels to determine the pay associated with the position. To establish pay, benchmark data was used from local job markets of City of Reno, Washoe County, Carson City, and Douglas County. These comparator cities and counties are the same the city uses for the public safety market data. HAY used the market data and their expertise to establish midpoints and then provided the city guidelines to develop pay ranges. Staff recommended the city manager a tiered system of pay ranges by business unit. How is the city going to implement the new program? Human Resources recommends the new pay ranges go into effect October 1st, 2018. No employee's current base pay will be reduced even if they are currently getting paid more than the new pay band minimum. Employees whose pay rate is below the new minimum pay will see a base pay increase on October 1st. The new maximum will be applied to employees' annual reviews after October 1st. The new pay ranges will be applied to new hires and promotions. And finally, employees whose pay is over the new maximum will not receive a cost of living increase in July of 2019 and until their pay matches up with the pay band maximum. A natural step in the new classification, in any new classification and compensation system, is to look at the outliers or positions that the new pay system pays significantly than the old pay system. The city chose to review positions that were 15% or more below the existing pay band. Of the 188 positions reviewed, 16 were identified as outliers. 14 of the 16 have been sent to Hay for releveling. Human Resources has received the results back and is beginning the process of communicating them with management, affected employees, and the operating engineers. Once Human Resources has been able to discuss them with the appropriate parties, the outliers will come back to City Council for their approval. These changes will also be effective October 1st of 2018. So moving forward in system maintenance. In spring of 2019, Human Resources recommends that the city implement a job advisory review committee consisting of employees from the participating bargaining units and resolutions. Members of the committee will be trained in the Hay system and will be responsible for leveling of the positions. Positions were reviewed when the city adds new titles to the complement or reorganizes. They will also be reviewed when employees request it or a manager. In addition, about 10% of the positions will be reviewed each year to keep the system fresh. Hay will be used at that point as a review function and a final appeal. Until the advisory committee is set up, Hay will continue to review and level positions as needed. For example, Human Resources sent 4 positions to Hay for leveling in August. Those results are also back, and Human Resources has begun the communication process. Like the outliers, the new positions pay range will be effective 1st, 2018 and need to come back to council for approval. On the market data, Human Resources recommends that the city review the market data every 5 to 7 years. Who are the affected groups? Who is going to be participating in the new Hay system? Operating engineers, both supervisory and non-supervisory, have agreed to use the new classification and compensation system, and it is included in the contract before you today. All the city resolutions are included in the new program. The public safety unions and the city have agreed not to use the Hay system at this time because both police and fire have established market-based systems that are based on Nevada law and arbitration decisions. And what is the financial impact? The cost to implement Hay is outlined by resolution and bargaining unit in each of the respective agenda items. The total cost to the general fund for fiscal year 19 is $139,000 and $73,500 in other funds. For fiscal year 20, the cost for the general fund is estimated to be $393,000 and $215,000 for other funds. In fiscal year 21, the cost for general fund estimated is $609,000 and $311,000 for other funds. That is the end of my formal presentation. I can answer questions, and the questions arose from the email and letter you received.
Any questions before I get to the email or and the letter? No? Okay. So I'm assuming everybody got the same letter that I got? Yeah. Okay, so let me just read my letter and you tell me if there's something different in yours that I didn't get. Okay, RE Mayor Gino Martini, 26 Consensus, came to my house. RE City Council meeting 9/10/18, general business items regarding employees' contracts. Dear Mayor Martini, I write this letter out of concern for the agenda items going forward on the September 10th, 2018 City Council meeting. The agenda items I am referring to are for consideration and discussion of the employee contracts and resolutions. As you may be aware, a consultant by the name of the Hay Group conducted a study regarding the pay levels and positions the city currently has. What you will consider on Monday's meeting are their recommendations. Although there are employees who will get a long overdue pay increase, there are positions the Human Resources Department is still working through. If these contracts are approved, the approval will allow for these positions to have a significant decrease in annual pay. Please consider continuing these items to a date when Human Resources has actually worked on these outliers and have included the outcomes to City Council. It is my opinion Human Resources has not done their job completely by bringing these items forward. Employees' livelihoods will be affected and morale could be lowered. Since I have worked for the city, it has always been Human Resources who has outlined the job description for each position. City employees bettered themselves to qualify and move up up the ranks, if you will. The Hay Group study does not reflect that, and some positions are being grouped together that should not be. I ask you to question staff on that. I cannot speak for every employee, but believe me when I say we would rather see more time spent on this and get it right than have these contracts and resolutions get approved. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter. Respectfully, concerned Sparks employee. Normally, when I get something anonymous, it goes in the circular file. I'll be very honest with you. If people don't have the gumption to step up and tell me what their problems are and sign something like this, I'm disappointed by this. But I think we need to address these questions, and I want to make sure that everybody that's watching or is interested or whatever gets the answers that they're looking for. So go ahead and let's answer the questions. Neil, I think we went over this before. So if you could answer, please, some of the questions so we can be straight, so the council can be straight on this.
For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. Mindy and I will tackle these questions together, and I picked up essentially 3 questions in the letter.
Okay.
The first of which is more of a not a question as much as a statement that some employees will experience significant decrease in actual pay, and as Mindy has already said, that is not the case. Even for the outliers, should pay stay at the lower range that was initially indicated, we are not proposing to cut anybody's pay. That has been part of our commitment as the city's management team under direction of the manager from the get-go here, that this wasn't going to be about cutting pay, that we would be looking at Y rating, as Mindy mentioned. So just to reiterate, we're not cutting anybody's pay on October 1st or at any date after that. Are there going to be positions, having said that we're looking at freezing until the market catches up with them through cost of living raises? Absolutely. That seems to be the appropriate step forward. Is the indication is that some of the positions we are currently overpaying for, just like some of the positions we are underpaying for. It's just the other end of that spectrum, if you will. I think the second question we'll ask Mindy to take on, and that's that Human Resources hasn't done their job completely by bringing these forward before the outlier process is complete.
So the outliers it's less than 10% of the employees, so it's a small portion. And there's a couple reasons why we wanted to bring it forward today and not wait until the outliers were completed. One of them is that no one will be affected October 1st in the outlier groups. Like Neil just said, no one's getting a decrease in pay. And then the Y rating isn't starting until July of 2019. So we have some time to figure that out. What would happen, though, is there's 2/3 of the city who are positively affected, that their pay range went up in some way, and that would just delay the effective date of that and those people getting it. So, and then the third reason is we do have a time constraint on the operating engineer's contract. They don't currently have a contract active, and the longer we wait, the longer their retro period is, and then there is some NRS that would go into effect October 1st would be negative to that group, so we did not want that to happen.
So really, the third point is one that I think we'll tackle together, and that is the combining of what formerly used to be a level 1 or a level 2 that have just gone into going forward would just be, well, let's say it's a labor, and I'm just throwing a name off the top of my head. That's one of the things that we learned as your staff through this process, is that we're in certain cases where we had previously had a distinction between a level 1 and a level 2, as we put both of those positions independently through the system did not return a rating that indicated that the difference was there, and recommended, because no difference existed under their system, that we consider combining those going forward. Mindy, do you want to add to that?
I will also say that what we thought was a career path in the past has changed in some cases, that some jobs leveled higher than others and used to get paid opposite. So that is definitely a change that we're working through.
So I think that we've hit the questions that were in that letter.
The email, I don't believe that I received it, Ed, but go ahead and read it if you want. Have you seen the email? You guys seen the email too?
Yes, we have.
Okay, so you'll understand then what questions we need to answer there. Okay, go ahead, Ed.
So there are several questions in here. Dear Mr. Lawson, Hayes' system of compensation will hurt nearly half the employees of the city of Sparks. 1, Employees at the top of their current salary band will see their pay frozen for many, many years. 2, employees who have not reached the top of their salary band will see their pay frozen far below their current band. Both instances leave the employees with an unnecessary and painful financial burden for several years down the road. This financial burden placed on, I think it's supposed to say is placed on so many employees, will subsidize irresponsible pay raises for the top people. Deputy City Manager and the Human Resource Manager were in direct charge of the Hayes System project. They both received monumental raises, and this is a violation of ethical standards. I beg for your consideration, this information before the City Council meeting. So there was 3 or 4 questions in there, Neil.
Yeah, again, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. We'll start with the first statement there that the Hayes system will hurt nearly half of the city's employees. That's not the case, and I think Mindy hit that on the head when she talked about the employee groups that we have either negotiated this with or bringing this to. It's positive to 7 out of 10 on a head count basis. So yes, there are 3 out of 10 that are looking at the other end of this, and I can appreciate that there is some frustration at the potential of being Y-rated. Some of them potentially for a number of years. But to state that nearly half of the employees in the city are negatively affected is just simply not the case. Mindy, you want to add to that one?
No.
Okay. So that really takes the first 2 that I noted will hurt nearly half the employees and freeze their pay for many years. Many will see their pay frozen far below their current band. Again, I think that goes back to that 7 in 10 versus 3 in 10. And yes, it's good for the vast majority of our employees, but not all. Next, we come into really the last group of 3, irresponsible pay raises for people at the top, the Deputy City Manager and the Human Resources Manager. And I think the intent there was to refer to me and to Mindy in direct charge of the project, both receiving monumental raises. For starters, this is not approving raises today. This is approving setting pay bands. And I don't want to come across as though I'm picking at minutia, but I think that's an important distinction here. As we contemplate implementing this system, what we are providing is an opportunity for employees from city manager level through our entry-level laborer to earn through performance and the performance evaluation process merit review going forward after October 1. So it's a small distinction, but I think it's an important one. And the second thing is, it relates to the accusation really against me and Mindy here that the inference there is that we were in charge of this thing and we worked with Hay to feather our own nests. I can tell you that unequivocally that's not the case. For starters, the Hay system is the Hay system. We provide them information. They bring us back the system. We certainly as an organization can choose to use the system or not use the system, but we do not have the ability to get in and direct where leveling goes, where pay goes. We provided them data. They used some mathematics behind that, and they used some of their expertise to come back to us with pay bands, and to us, they make a lot of sense. Now, having said that, are our positions, 2 of the positions that we're going to see if adopted, the upper end of our pay range go up? Yes, it is. That is part of the recommendation here today. But to me, that doesn't constitute, and I want to make sure I get this right, so I'm going to quote it. This does not constitute a violation of ethical standards. And I fall back on the code of ethics that I live by through my membership in the ICMA, the International City County Management Association, which when you come into situations like this, you look at it from the standpoint of, number one, what's right for the organization. And I think in Mindy's presentation, she hit on all of the reasons, right on right on point with why a system like this is something that we need to go forward with. And then second, we come into, are we applying it equally across the city and not favoring certain individuals over others? And the answer clearly is no. So based on that, it's the right thing for the city. It is being equally applied at all levels across the city. I don't believe that there is an ethical violation here. So I think that, Mindy, you want to add something to that?
I just have one thing to add. When it came to the market data, we actually asked Washoe County Human Resources to match the jobs. So Human Resources didn't do their own jobs. We asked them to do it for us. So.
And I'll summarize by saying that we rolled this out to our employees over a vast number of meetings. And I want to thank the operating engineers for allowing us to go to their employees while we were at the negotiating table with them to share information and get a lot of questions answered in the room. We couldn't take those discussions offline and do one-on-one because that would have gotten in the way of the collective bargaining. But we were able to have very open and honest conversations in the room, and of which we had many. And as we rolled this out into the various resolution groups, we got in front of them a couple of times and had long question and answer sessions. We heard a lot of the feedback that came in the letter and in the email. The accusation of ethical violation was a new one into the email. We hadn't heard that one before, though it didn't come as completely as a surprise. But the point I'm trying to land on here is that we had lots of opportunities for all of our employees to ask us questions, to get those questions answered. And we had the opportunity with the resolution folks to have a number of follow-up discussions. So I guess what I'm trying to do now is speak to the couple of employees who have chosen to stay, unidentified. I appreciate the questions themselves about the system, and I can understand that if you're one in that 3 in 10 group, that you are coming to today with a bit of a sense of anxiety. I understand that and appreciate it. But there is no nefarious agenda here. There is no pocket lining here. We have done this transparently. It has taken a lot longer than we wanted it to. We've been open with our employees. We've been open with you about that. And frankly, having said that, we're happy to actually have arrived here at the table today to have the opportunity to present this to you in hopes that you will take the recommendation that we developed under the city manager's direction to adopt a class and comp system for the city. We think it will serve us very well going forward.
Just to follow up there, Neil, so going forward, once we are in the Hayes system, then there's up to a couple of years or 3 years of adjustment here. Once we're in this, then every employee is treated exactly the same. They have the same abilities, and it's not a popularity contest, which happens, and we're humans. This kind of takes that popularity contest out of it.
It does. It removes one of the things that we as city management have taken a beating on over a great number of years was the reclass process that we used to run, every year as part of the budget process. And if you felt like that your job should be reclassed, you went through the budget process, and there was an impression amongst many employees that was subjective popularity contest, to use your words, or who did you know type of situation, and not based on what are the requirements of the job and is it being looked at objectively. This system will bring that level of objectivity to it, and it will bring us an employee-based and employee-populated job evaluation review committee that will be the ones who are trained in the Hay process, and we will rely on them using Hay as a backstop and a check and an audit, if you will, to make sure that we're using their system properly. But it will be that group of employees who are essentially rating through an objective system how a job level and where it should fit into our classification and compensation system. So we think it's going to take the city a long way down that road towards objectivity.
Thank you.
Other question is Ms. Bybee.
I've got a couple, because this is pretty complex. I mean, this is a lot, and it impacts everybody who works for the city, but there's a ton of information here. It's saying that 39 employees right now are paid above the range maximum of current employees on our payroll. So 39 are above the range maximum that Hayes showed, and that 13 employees are below the minimum. What happens to those? Do all 39 employees who are overpaid simply get frozen and wait until they move into that maximum amount? And then on the 13 that are below, do they automatically jump right up to whatever the minimum is, and we adjust their salaries to the new minimum?
For the people that are below, yes. On October 1st, we will bring them up to the new minimum, no matter how much that increase is. Because all of our resolutions and contracts say that we wouldn't pay someone below the stated pay band, which would be the minimum. So that happens October 1st. And then your second part of the question was about the Y rate.
For the people who are above.
Who are above, yes. So the people who are above, they will not receive COLA increases until the pay band matches up with them. So as the COLAs happen, as they're agreed upon in July, as it incrementally goes up, once new pay band reaches what the employee makes, then they will start receiving COLAs again.
And if I can tag on to that and
Because
elaborate.
a couple of those are a lot,
bit.
or a lot, quite a bit substantially above. And how many years are we looking at, or we don't know?
And that's something that strictly speaking, we don't know, because we don't, our pay bands, the way we've set up our existing labor contracts and built into most of what you're going to see presented later today are based on a CPI falling within a certain range, typically between 1% and 3%. So if we use 2 as a proxy number, if you will, and anticipate that our salary bands are going to go up 2% a year, if somebody is, per the Hay system, 10% overpaid, they're looking at perhaps 5 years before that pay range has caught up to what they are making. So yes, when you get to the very outside end of the outliers, then yes, we do have a handful of employees that, if those outliers stay at the level that they are currently at, are looking at a number of years of frozen pay. Those are not many of the 39 positions that you referenced. They're just a small handful of the outliers and the positions below that. Certainly there are a number that are indicated to be overpaid in that 2 to 5% range. So you're looking at 2, maybe 3 years later, and you're getting a cost of living. And those in that 10 to 12 range, yes, that's a 5 or 6 year, or perhaps even longer, if that doesn't change through the outlier process.
Okay. Second question, I've got a couple here, if you can be patient with me. So per Hay, it's showing 30, it's showing people that were underpaid, the 39 that are underpaid. But yet when we look at the market comparison, some of those, including your professional managerial, levels 14 to 19, and the executive, levels 20 to 26, professional managerial, for the market, we are paying higher. We're ahead by 14%, and we're ahead by 22% above the market median. So Hay's telling us we're not paying, or that they're overpaid, and yet the market median, we're ahead of the market median. So I guess what happens are those ones that will be frozen? Or, where do we go on these two levels, for these levels of employees?
I'm not sure I'm following your question, council member.
So these fall in the overpaid that would be frozen?
Yes.
I guess, okay, so these would fall, the professional managerial and executive would fall in because this is market median, is market median different than what Hay, or it's incorporated into what we're deciding for Hay? That's how we're determining it, because of cost of living and what the market bears. So it's part of the numbers that Hay is giving us, is the market median? I'm trying to grasp the market median and where we stand.
So Hay gave us market medians for each pay level and then told us to develop pay ranges from that. So for example, in the executive ranges, it's a 20% range. So we take the market median number for level 19 and then add 20% to get the maximum and subtract 20% to get the minimum.
For the minimum.
Yeah. So that's the range now. So if the executive is over the maximum, yes, then they're Y rated.
Okay, but as long as they stay within the minimum to the maximum, as long as we're in that for any level?
Yes.
If we're from the minimum to the maximum,
If you're within that.
we're good on each level,
If you're within
8
that.
through 26.
If you're within the minimum and max at any level, you'll have the opportunity for merit raises annually, and you will enjoy the cost of living adjustments. that come
Okay,
in.
and if you're above that maximum, we already talked about if they're below or they're above that. And I guess bottom line too, when I look at the cost of this, so the cost that you're giving us, this breakdown that goes all the way up 2021 is $920,000 will be the future cost. That's just to implement Hay. That's not what our labor cost is. That's increasing costs. And I guess bottom line, today, let alone 2021, where do we have the money to do that?
That comes from the same place that we're proposing to pay for the rest of the labor agreements, and that is what we see as salary savings. We always budget a fully loaded complement from July 1 to June 30. We know that we never quite have that. We've always got a handful of vacancies that we carry on, so that creates some budget authority for us from year to year. And then certainly we are looking at a budget that does grow as our economy continues to grow. But we do believe that this system and the labor agreements that come after it are affordable to the city.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dare.
So my question is a little similar to hers on the 2021. It would seem we're almost at $1 million increase. I don't see in 3 years that with other things we also know we have. I'm questioning, are we outpacing our own personal growth and tax structure by doing this, and then what it handcuffs our city in other ways? I mean, I get the Hay study. I understand why we're doing it. It is hard when people get stuck and feel like their salaries are not improving or whatever in that fashion. But at large, as a city, we never want to be at a place where we have to lay anybody off or we do any of that stuff. So can you just talk about that for a second? I know you say you believe we're there, but I don't know that I believe we're there. So help me believe. Help me believe.
Well, I'll start out by agreeing with you and saying that we never want to build ourselves into a situation where we have to lay people off just to make existing payroll. And frankly, we've been there. And those were 3 very unpleasant years I hope to never have to live through again. So, having said that, we are confident with the financial forecasting that we have, that we do look 3 years ahead, that we do have sufficient resources to pay for this. And that comes down to, it actually goes up to a 30,000-foot level, if you will, and begs the question of overall compensation. Understanding that we do not have sufficient revenue to meet every demand that we face as a city, one of the things we have to ask ourselves is, how do we want to pay those with the resources that we have? And we've considered this at a very high level in the past, where we've said, as an organization, informally, we wanted to be within plus or minus 5% of what the market was doing. I know, because I've sat here in front of you a year ago and said that's how we operate. By adopting Hay, you are tightening that up and basing it on an actual salary survey. And as Mindy mentioned, we chose the comparators, the same ones that we've used with our public safety partners for a number of years. So we're confident that that's a good measure of the market that we have. Nevertheless, we still have that question to wrestle with. Do we want to spend the money that we do have to pay employees appropriately so that we can retain them within the city? Because we do want to retain very high-quality employees. And a fundamental concern we have is that if the further behind you fall there, the less opportunity you're going to have to hang on to those quality employees, because the grass will be greener and taller on the other side of the street in the Renos and the Washoe counties.
Do we have any projections? I mean, not to cut you off. I appreciate what you're saying, and thank you. Do we have any projections showing what we forecast of what we have coming in? I mean, I appreciate that you want us to say, well, we'll just agree. But I just, like I said, it's a big concern of me. We're going to say yes to something that we're going to sit here in a couple of years, and I plan to run again in 2 years. So in 3 years, I hope to be sitting right here going, hey, we made a great decision back then, and we need more police and fire. And I don't want to hear, well, we can't do anything. We gave everyone the hay raise, and we're stuck right here, and we don't even have enough to do that. So I'm concerned.
And I'm going to invite our finance director, financial services director, Jeff Kronk, down, because he's the best one to address that forecasting question.
I always like when he comes to the table.
Always?
Sometimes, half the time.
Once in a while.
It's lower.
Actually, never. The truth comes out. Jeff Kronk, Financial Services Director, for the record. So just to address, I mean, it's true at one level, we certainly cannot look into the future, and the crystal ball sometimes gets a little fuzzy, right? But we do feel that we're going to have the resources to be able to pay for this. We do have a consistent, a fairly consistent track record, if you will, of salary savings, and that is the one area that we're going to bank on, if you will, and that has happened very consistently over the last several years. We're in the process right now of closing our books, and I can't provide you the details yet because again, we just internally closed them and the auditors just got here, so we're just in that process. But I can tell you that we are expecting a higher ending fund balance than we budgeted going into the fiscal year. So that was certainly good news, and I'll certainly break all that down once I get it. But the long and the short of it is that we're kind of banking on our management ability to handle the fiscal side of this. As the revenues come in, the economy is growing. I review that all the time, and it's still growing. There are always those storm clouds on the horizon, but right now the economy is strong. So I can't point, and I look a lot, and I don't do it in a vacuum either. I look at various state agencies, various other agencies in the area, and we all kind of talk together, and we don't see an immediate weakness. Now, could that story change in 6 months? Absolutely. Who can tell the future, right? So we make decisions based on what we know. And right now, what we do know is that we do believe that there are resources available to pay for this in the coming year.
Thank you. Thank you.
For me, I'm surprised because I've sat in a few workshops as well as Mr. Lawson that we're coming back better than we actually projected. That just amazes
This
me.
never happens.
It never happens. Almost every time it happens.
Almost every single year it happens, but, yeah.
Mr. Lawson.
And unfortunately, you guys didn't get to go through the Great Recession. And we learned a lot in that time. And I want to make sure that in this too, because we know the bottom line is there's no money, we lay off employees. And we don't want to do that, but we were forced to do that in the Great Recession. And we laid off a monumental amount of employees at somewhere around 38%. That's huge when you take that much of a hit to your city and it's still expected to provide the same services. But I also want to make sure that we're not tying the hands of any future city councils by adopting this Hay study. We're just making it even and fair for all the employees so that there is no special treatment per se.
That is correct. You are adopting this system. That's what we are asking you to do, is to adopt a system that doesn't commit or bind future councils from changing, updating a system, coming up with something completely different. They will certainly retain that ability. Then as we come to the other dozen labor-related items that I'll get to here a little later, those, we routinely bring you multi-year labor contracts. And that's what we're bringing you here in terms of those 12 agreements later today, are a dozen multi-year agreements or memorandums of understanding that modify those multi-year agreements. So again, we are not, we are doing business that makes good business sense, if you will, in terms of wanting to stay competitive, wanting an objective system that helps us stay mindful of the legalities involved when it comes to any employee matters, that assists us in managing and running the city in terms of succession planning and identifying holes that are in our organization. This will be a tool that will be helpful. So, again, this is, you are not binding the future. We are asking you to adopt a system that's going to allow us to better plan for and improve the city going forward.
Thank you. I think this is the right way to go. I like it. From the private sector, it's a lot more up and down. You can't meet payroll. Sorry, you got to go, Ralph, and away we go. Now we made payroll. So I don't think that's a right. And we want long-term employees, and our employees are what really makes this city work. I mean, we are a service industry, and if our employees aren't out there doing a good job for our city, we're not doing a good job as city council people. So we want our happy employees. We want them to be compensated correctly, but we don't want them to break the bank either. But we want to make sure they're paid legitimately what they're worth. So thank you.
And Bill and Steve, ever since we started this study, we've been updated monthly on the progress and what we were going through as a city to make it right. I know the first report we came out, we weren't happy. We didn't think they were doing their job. So we sent it back to them and asked them to come back with some different studies and tell us their reasons why they come up with these ranges and everything else. So I was actually kind of surprised when I got the letter and the email that the employees thought that more than half the people were going to have pay decreases when we've been told all along that there were no decreases coming, but they may be frozen. Mr. Abbott?
Yeah, how's the job review advisory committee going to be filled? Is that going to be appointed by like, I guess, peers to represent them, or?
Mindy will be happy to answer that question for you. I like getting to say that.
Yeah. Mindy Falk, Human Resources Manager for the record. So we are planning on taking volunteers for the committee, and they will be trained in the HAY method. We are going to say that you have to be affected by the HAY group, so police and fire, since they are not in it. So it will be all of the resolutions and all and operating engineers, supervisory and non-supervisory.
Okay. So like, what, 7-ish?
Yeah, you know, we haven't determined the number yet. We're still working with the HAY group. They've done this committee setup before and working on what would be the right mix for our organization.
And it'll be a public meeting, just, or?
That is a good question for our attorney.
Okay. Later? Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so I guess we're looking for motions. Mr. Smith?
I move to approve and adopt the classification system and compensation program, including the acceptance of the June 2018 Corn Ferry Hay Group compensation study.
Mr. Lawson?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Lawson to approve 9.5 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, let's move into public hearing and action items unrelated to planning and zoning. First up, excuse me. First up, 10-1, public hearing, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a request from Vic Square Properties LLC for the abandonment of a portion of alleyway between parcel 032.134-18 and 032.134.13 and public right-of-way on C Street located adjacent to the northwest corner of parcel 032-134.18 for the atrium at Victorian Square Apartment Project. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mayor.
You understood all those parcel numbers and stuff, as well as I did.
Just wanted to make sure you were on your A game.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, City Council members, John Erickson, City Engineer for the record. The atrium at Vic Square project proposes 4 levels of residential units with a total of 132 units constructed on 2 levels of a parking structure. The abandonment of the alleyway would create one contiguous parcel from C Street to Victorian Avenue. And so here's C Street to the north, Victorian Avenue is to the south. This is the bus depot here. And then this is Fountain House on the other side of the Victorian Plaza Circle. Staff has researched the request and believes the public will not be materially injured. Legal descriptions for the request of the alleyway abandonment, which is this area here, and which is going to be the access into the lower portion of the garage. And then the abandonment of the right-of-way up here at C Street will be the access that goes into the ramp to the second floor of the proposed parking structure. Each owner of the property abutting the proposed abandonment had been properly notified via certified mail by NRS 278.480. The existing and proposed abandonment and the date of this public hearing were published in the Reno Gazette Journal as required by that NRS. Easements will be reserved in the alleyway. There's gas, water, as well as a sewer line that run through here, and so we will reserve an easement. Staff finds that the public will not be materially injured by the proposed abandonment and recommends approval. Just so that the council knows, the applicant is here in the audience, so if you wish to ask any questions of Mr. Witt, he'd be available to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Erickson? None? Okay, the applicant is here. Would you like to talk, Mr. Witt? Any comments you want to make? And then I'll open up the public hearing. Mr. Mayor. Council, Jay Witt, Silverwing Development. As John mentioned, what we're trying to do is kind of correct a planning deficiency that occurred about 1902. I missed that meeting, by the way. And have continuity for these parcels. It's actually, it's a two-story parking garage.
Yes, two-story.
And then it's four stories above that, so it's six total. And we hope to just, you know, these parcels are important for the design and efficiency of the construction. Our expectation is to start this in November, probably late November. And if you have, certainly if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer for you. Questions for Mr. Witt?
I have one. What are you doing here?
I know.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I'm a little, I'm 50% right now, so I'm holding up. But anyway, I'm here. I'm here to support John. Any other questions? Okay. So I'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this particular item? Seeing no public comment, I'll bring it back to council for action. Any questions, whatever? Nothing? Okay, Mr. Abbott.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move to approve the request from Vic Square Properties LLC for the abandonment of a portion of an alleyway between parcel 032-134-18 and 032-134-13 in public right-of-way on C Street located adjacent to the northwest corner of parcel 032-134-18 for the atrium at Victorian Square apartment project.
Second, Mr. Smith.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 10.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Please vote.
Heads up.
Ed's indisposed. He's on assignment.
There you go. Okay, one absent. Okay, it passes unanimously with those present. Thanks, John. Thank you, Mr. Witt. I know you're not feeling well, so thanks for being here. We appreciate you showing up. Thanks. Okay, let's move on to 10.2. So we're going to be going over all these, or are you're going to be addressing all these, Neil, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And-
so-
and we've set them all up as public hearings, and so we'll need to conduct each one of those individually.
Yeah, okay, I get it, okay. 10.2, public hearing, consideration of possible approval of a collective bargaining agreement, AC 5510, between the City of Sparks and the Operating Engineers Local Number 3. Go ahead, Neil.
All right, for the record, Neil Cruz, Assistant City Manager. Happy to be here to continue the four-part series, as Mindy mentioned. And the first part was the class and comp. That kind of set the foundation for really the balance in large part of what we're doing here today. This part two is going to be the next four items that you hear, and that is 3 collective bargaining agreements and 1 employee resolution that is very much like a collective bargaining agreement, except that the employees that are inside that resolution can't be in a collective bargaining agreement because they are confidential employees and they are privy to see confidential information. So we have to separate them out. And then part 3 will be a series of memorandums of understanding with our public safety unions that modify the agreements that are already in place for them, to accelerate some pay range adjustments to line them up with what we are doing with Hay and the rest of our employees. And then part 4 will be the final 4 items, and those are the employees who are in the various resolution groups that we have, mid-management, deputy police chiefs, city attorneys, and the executive group to implement Hay in there as well. So that's parts 2, 3, and 4. So collective bargaining agreements is the first piece here today. First part of part 2, and that's a collective bargaining agreement with the operating engineers non-supervisory group for local number 3. I am happy to report that after a great number of very productive meetings with our partners in the collective bargaining unit, that we did reach a tentative agreement that they took forward to their membership and did vote to ratify. So we are here collectively with them to ask you to ratify this agreement. I will quickly summarize for you kind of the terms of what we are doing. The agreement that's in front of you today for the OE3 non-supervisory group has a 3-year term. In terms of sharing of information, we did agree to provide the collective bargaining unit with a monthly list of new hires who would have the opportunity to join them, so that they can have, better access and know when we're hiring people. The second piece, and certainly the one that carries the vast majority of the financial impact, is the pay rate section. And the first is in Hay. And Mindy, as she went through presenting the Hay study to you, talked to you about the specifics that come with that. In terms of the dollars that would flow with adopting Hay as part of this collective bargaining agreement, we're looking in this fiscal year, FY19, a general fund increase of $95,000, and all other funds being at $50,000 for a total of $145,000. In fiscal year 20, $223,000 in the general fund, $114,000 in all other funds for a total of $337,000. And in fiscal year 21, $343,000 impact to the general fund, $168,000 in all other funds for a total of $511,000. And I am reading from a table that's in the staff report, so you do have that information. The second part comes in the form of a cost of living adjustment. And as I mentioned, that this is a 3-year term that we have proposed here, and it does contain a cost of living adjustment in each of those 3 years. For the year that we are in, we did agree to a cost of living adjustment of 2.7%. That is based on the CPI that we used with the operating engineers last year, and that we've used with a number of our units for cities of our size in the western U.S. And annual index. So 2.7% for this current fiscal year. It would be retroactive to the first full pay period after July 1st of this year. And then in years 2 and 3, it will float between a guaranteed minimum of at least no less than 1%, and a guaranteed maximum of no more than 3%. And that gives the members of the unit some assurance that there's going to be something there. Even if our economy closes down and the actual CPI is 0, they are guaranteed a 1% increase at least. And then on the other end, it guarantees the city a lid on it, so that if inflation were to run away from us and suddenly the CPI goes to 5%, we're guaranteed a cap of 3. So it flows between that 1 and 3, and we adopt what it is. This year was 2.7, so we'll take a look at it and do that in each of years 2 and 3. So that rolls out a series of ranges in terms of financial impact for just that cost of living. We're looking at $117,000 this year in the general fund and $223,000 in other funds, and then we get to ranges in FY20 of $161 to $251 in the general fund, and then $308 to $477 in other funds. And then to roll out into FY21, $206,000 to $389,000 in the general fund. And again, that's if it's at 1%, we know it's $206. If it's at 3%, we know it's $389. The actual number will, in all likelihood, fall somewhere in between. And then all other funds for $394 to $739. The next point that I want to cover there is a new novel idea that we worked out with members in the non-supervisory group, and that it deals with overtime that's not scheduled and not emergency related. We run into a fair amount of overnight calls. This sewer line broke, or this storm drain is plugged, or those types of maintenance calls. They come in with some regular frequency, but not enough to schedule it. We handle it on an overtime basis. And we worked with the bargaining unit to establish an opt-out list based on seniority, because we do have some employees who love to get those calls and pick up the extra hours, and we have other employees who are like, please don't call me. And so we negotiated the ability to, on a quarterly basis, come up with a seniority-based opt-out list. So that if we've got somebody who's at the top of the list on seniority and doesn't want to be called for that, the sewer is plugged, we won't bother trying to get a hold of them. They won't get woken up in the middle of the night. And as I just mentioned here very quickly, we will revisit that list on a quarterly basis. That does not apply to any emergent situation or any scheduled overtime, so that's not going to apply during special events. It's just for those unscheduled middle of the night type of calls. And it's something that I think will please management here, because it will limit the number of phone calls we got to make, because we'll know the folks that don't want to be on the list. And it will benefit the members of the union who don't want to be bothered after hours. If we have the opportunity not to bother them, we won't do it. The next item, and we've got a relatively minor fiscal impact, is providing training pay in our police records section over in the Sparks Police. Historically, we've provided training pay to our dispatchers who are training new employees to the tune of $75 per pay period. We're simply rolling this over into our records section as well, so that if you're working in records and you are training a new employee, you will receive that $75 per pay period stipend while the training is going on as well. The last item of significance is the sick leave cash out table. That's not a new item, but what we are trying to do is true up the payout rates so that all of the tables across all of the bargaining units that have these in them have the same percentage of payout depending on the number of years in the system. So we are truing that up for both OE groups here, and it's in the 10 and 15 year ranges to make those equal to what we've done with others. And then I want to close with a thank you to the city negotiating team. We expanded it this year to give people the opportunity to get some exposure to collective bargaining negotiations and to try and, in terms of succession planning, prepare some people to do this going forward. And so we had a team of 7 of us in total that I want to thank and recognize, and just going in alphabetical order by last name because numbers work in my head and so does the alphabet. Cheryl Eiting was a key team member, Mindy Falk, Stacy Hemmerling, John Martini, Jim Rundle, and Perla Tavera were all members of the team, and each and every one of them contributed to the deal that we negotiated with our partners across the table to put in front of you here today. So I thank them for their efforts and look forward to working with them in the future. Having said that, I would be happy to try and answer any questions that you've got.
Questions for Neil? Ms. Bybee?
Neil, one quick question on the cost of living adjustment. If this is for this and the ones you're bringing to us also. So the Hay study, for those, if people are going to be getting a raise because they weren't making, they're coming up under the Hay study, so they're getting an increase. The cost of living adjustment is added on top of that. Whatever the Hay study does, cost of living is only not applicable to those whose pay is higher, that they're frozen. So only employees whose pay will be frozen will not have the COLA, and all others will.
And in FY19, the year we're in now, everybody is receiving the cost of living adjustment, irregardless of Hay impact.
Okay.
So that comes back to why we were comfortable moving forward, even though the outlier in the review process was not complete, is everybody is receiving the 2.7% cost of living adjustment that we've negotiated this year.
Until
and then
19.
the freezes don't begin until next July.
Okay,
So
and that would include
gives-
the freeze and no COLA only for those positions. Everyone else receives the COLA.
Yes, ma'am. That would be just
Thank
the
you.
Y-rated positions that that wouldn't receive.
Anyone else? It's a public hearing, so I'll open it to the public. Anyone in the audience like to speak to this particular item? I have no speaking cards. Okay, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action on 10.2. Any further questions? Not looking for a motion, Mr. Smith.
I'd like to make a motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank the negotiating team on both sides to come up with a 3-year contract, which I think is wonderful. I don't think we've had one of those in a long time, if ever. So I move to approve the collective bargain agreement between the City of Sparks and the Operating Engineers Local Number 3 non-supervisory unit covering the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2020.
Have a second, Ms. Bybee.
Second that, and is that 2020, 2021?
21, 3 years.
21, okay.
Yeah.
I'll second that, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 10.2 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to 10.3, public hearing, consideration and possible approval of a collective bargaining agreement, AC 5511, between the City of Sparks and the Operating Engineers Local 3 Supervisory Unit. Go ahead, Neil.
All right, for the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. This particular item is going to sound a lot like the one that we just went through. The difference here is before we were talking about the non-supervisory employees. This time we were talking about the supervisory group. We did negotiate with both groups together, so we've got, very much the same type of agreement in front of you. It's proposed for a 3-year term, backdated to, July 1st and running through June 30th of 2021. We agreed to provide the new hire list for folks in that union, in that collective bargaining unit on a monthly basis. In terms of pay rates, it is adoption of HAY, and to walk quickly through those numbers, they're a lot smaller in the supervisory group because it's a smaller group than they were for the non-supervisory. In FY19, the general fund impacts are $5,500, and all other funds add up to $8,500. My glasses back on because those numbers just got fuzzy. Looking in fiscal year 20, the general fund impact is $13,000, and all other funds are at $29,000. And fiscal year 21, the general fund impact at $15,000, and all other funds at $32,000. Moving on to the cost of living adjustment, it is the same 3-year deal that I just went through, 2.7 in this fiscal year, backdated to the first full pay period of the fiscal year, and then in years 2 and 3, or FYs 20 and 21, if you will, it's the CPI range between 1 and 3. Based on the actual data. Then in terms of sick leave cash out, it's that same true up where we are increasing the percentage of payout in the 10 and 15 year windows so that we are aligning all of those tables across our various units. And it was the same from the city side, the same negotiating team that negotiated the non-supervisory. So thanks again to that group of folks for helping us get to an agreement that I think both sides are happy with, and I'm very proud of.
Questions for Neil on 10.3? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience like to speak to this particular agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Mr. Lawson.
First off, I want to say thank you. This group in the OE3 they took the brunt of the Great Recession, and it's good to get them back closer to whole. And I know we'll never be quite all the way back there, but I appreciate their dedication to the city. I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sparks and the Operating Engineers Local Number 3 Supervisor Unit covering the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2021.
Do I have a second, Mr. Dare?
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Lawson, second by Mr. Dare to approve 10.3 as outlined by staff, bargaining agreement with the City of Sparks and the collective and the Operating Engineers Local 3 Supervisory people. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to 10.4, public hearing, consideration and possible approval of a collective bargaining agreement, AC 5512, between the City of Sparks and the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 1265. Go ahead, Neil.
For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. Very pleased to be here with a tentative agreement and a recommendation for approval that both the IAFF 1265 did vote to support, and your city staff certainly supports the recommendation in front of you here today. This is, just like we did with the operating engineers, this agreement does have a 3-year term, so for the very same reasons, as much as I enjoy this type of negotiation and find it very, very personally rewarding, it is a tiring process, so I'm looking forward to having next year off from negotiations, if you will. This is a 3-year term. The pay impacts are spread out in one large area and two small. The first one and the big one is the cost of living adjustment. We did negotiate the same 2.7% cost of living adjustment that we did with the other units. Here as well, backdated to retroactive, if you will, to the first full pay period in July of this year. Then going forward into years 2 and 3, or FY 20 and 21, we landed on a little bit of a different process to get to agreement. And that's in terms of what's in front of you here today is rather than having the range that you saw in the other two agreements, we're bringing fixed numbers forward to you. And we arrived at an agreement that would provide them an additional 1% cost of living raise every 6 months in years 2 and 3, if you will. So 1.5% cost of living in July, and then another one in the following January, July, another 1.5, and 1.5 in January of that following year. So the individual net impact on, say, year 2 or FY20 averages out at 2.25%, but at the end of that period of time, the employee's pay has gone up 3. So it's a little bit lighter on our budget in that year, but takes the employee's to a higher range that takes them to the upper end of the range that we negotiated with other groups. So it's a bit of a different approach, but one that we fully support, and certainly it does take away uncertainty, if you will, and that's I think what led us to this answer. And as a member of your city staff, I'm comfortable with that blended 2.5 that we're bringing to you, or 2.25, sorry, that we're bringing to you in each of those 2 years. The other two are range adjustments. The first is that as we went through the comparables analysis, as we are required to do with our public safety partners per NRS 288 every year, we have to go out and compare ourselves to the market we compete with. So that took us to that same group that Mindy ran you through in terms of comparable organizations. We did see that the top end of our captain pay was a little bit light. So we negotiated a one-time adjustment of $1,845 to go on to the top of the annual pay for fire captains. It is supported by the comparables analysis that we did. And the second is a bit of a cleanup, and it relates to our fire plans examiner. And we want to, in this agreement, we want to raise the top end of the pay there to match the top end of the Fire Prevention Inspector 2 position. What we don't want to have happen, certainly you put the workloads and the complexity of the work side by side, and they are very much on par with each other. What we don't want to have is a situation where we get a very qualified plans examiner who decides he wants to go back out in the field, and do inspections again because the money is better. The work is comparable in terms of its complexity and its level of responsibility. So from a management perspective, it makes sense to compensate those the same, and it also sets us up better for progression, succession planning going forward, so that we're not having people jump just solely for pay issues. Then there were a number of areas in the agreement that we tried to clean up the language or remove some dates that were no longer pertinent to the agreement. You saw that in the longevity section is the one that jumps to mind. And then finally, I want to thank again the city negotiation team that helped us get to this. We did, as I mentioned, for the OE3, we expanded the size of our team to give people the opportunity to expose themselves and to do some succession planning on our end. So the folks that joined me at the table from the city side were, again, Cheryl Eiting, Mindy Falk, Amber Sosa, Jill Valdez, and Wayne Weber. And so thank you to all of them for participating. They certainly, each and every one of them, helped us arrive at an agreement that we can support and be proud of. With that, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
Questions for Neil on 10.4? Okay, seeing none, this is also a public hearing, so open to public hearing. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for action. Questions or looking for a motion? Mr. Dare.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sparks and the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 1265, for the period of July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021. And I'd also like to say thank you for the 3 years as well. It's much better for our process.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 10.4 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.5, public hearing, consideration and possible approval of a confidential employee resolution number 3340 for the period of July 1, 2018 to June 30th, 2021. Estimated to city $31,000 and FY 1949 and, FY 207621. Mr. Mr. Kreutz, go ahead.
For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. This is the last item in part two in terms of collecting and bargaining agreements. While this is a resolution, this is for our confidential employees who per NRS, because of their exposure to confidential information, cannot be part of any employee collective bargaining unit. But state law is set up so that we have to treat them at least as well, if you will, as we do members of collective bargaining units. So each of the employees in here, otherwise the confidential exposure, would be a member of OE3. So what we've done is drawn up a resolution that mirrors the two OE3 agreements that you saw a few minutes ago. So to just quickly run through that, again, it's a 3-year term. Pay rates break down into two broad categories, the first of which is hay, which of course you have already adopted. This is a relatively small employee group, so as it stands, we're looking at a $3,000 impact in the general fund in this fiscal year from hay, $13,000 in the next, and $20,000 in FY21. The second major component in there is the pay ranges. Again, it's a 2.7% cost of living adjustment retroactive to the first full pay period of this year, and then that CPI ranging between 1 and 3 in years 2 and 3. And then the last significant change is the sick leave cash out, again, truing up that cash out table in years 10 and 15 so that we've got alignment across all agreements. And with that, would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions for Mr. Cruz? Mr. Smith?
Just a comment. I want to thank and congratulate Mr. Driscoll and Mr. Cruz on your vision to bring other people into the bargaining process. I mean, I've been so proud of Sparks over the years how we do that, succession planning, and I think that vision is very wise, and I want to thank you for that, both of you.
Okay, any questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open it. Anyone in the public who want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Ms. Bybee.
Ready to make a motion? I move to adopt resolution number 3340 between the City of Sparks and the confidential employees for the period of July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021.
Second, Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 10.5 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 10.6, public hearing, consideration possible approval of a memorandum of understanding, AC 5313, between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Protective Association non-supervisory. Go ahead, Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, Mayor Martini. For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. And now we're moving into what I'm referring to as Part 3 of the little show we're putting on for you here today. And that is a series of 4 memorandums of understanding with our public safety collective bargaining units, setting aside the 1265 because we handled them separately in a new 3-year agreement. But we've got 3 MOUs for the 3 units that we have through our Sparks Police, our SPPA, the non-supervisory sergeants and lieutenants. And then the 4th one is with the International Chief Officers, or our battalion chiefs for short. And those are units that we have. We're in year 2 of an existing, we've just started year 2 of an existing 3-year term. You approved that initially a year ago when we brought it forward to you. We were excited to have a 3-year deal. And in each of those cases, having gone through the comparable pay analysis, we recognized that to various degrees, we were under market. And we negotiated with each of those units to bump up the top end of the pay scale, if you will, but spread it out over all 3 years of the agreement so that we didn't take that hit all in year 1. And frankly, we backloaded it. A little lighter in year 1, a little heavier in year 3. And the collective bargaining units, to their credit, accepted that in trying to minimize the impact on the city. Having that be the situation and acknowledging that now we have adopted hay and that we are, to the extent that you can earn up to 5% merit increase a year, that we are making those new pay ranges available to employees that are adopting hay, or in this case now have adopted hay, that sets up an apparent difference in treatment. That we're giving hay opportunities right away, starting October 1, but that we had asked these 4 MOU groups to wait and pick it up in pieces over a period of time. So we met with each one of those groups and negotiated an MOU that would essentially bring that pay range adjustment forward in time to October 1, so that we are treating, with respect to pay and pay range adjustment opportunities, all of them the same, rather than having a pile be having that opportunity October 1 or right after, and depending on the group you're in, some were waiting until next July of 19 or even January of 2020 to get the tail end of that. So that's really what necessitated the idea, was equal treatment of our employees in terms of their ability to earn increases in pay. The first one here is as Mayor Martini indicated, was the Memorandum of Understanding with the Sparks Police Protective Association non-supervisory group. We are looking at a $19,000 impact, if you will, in this fiscal year by accelerating the 3rd piece of their pay range adjustment from what would have been July 8th of 2019 up to October 1st of this year. That is really the nuts and bolts of that agreement. $19,000 financial impact in this fiscal year. and 43,000 in FY '20. The 2 years combined, the remaining 2 years in that agreement add up to $62,000. With that, I would be happy to try and answer any questions that you have.
Questions for Mr. Kreutz? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing, so open the public hearing. Anyone want to speak to this particular item? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Sparks and the City of Sparks Police Protective Association non-supervisory.
Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Miss Bybee, to approve 10.6 outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Mr. Smith. Perfect. Passes unanimously. Okay, 10.7, public hearing, question, consideration, and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding AC 5514 between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Protective Association Sergeants. Go ahead, Mr. Kreutz.
Thank you, Mayor Martini. Again, for the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. Really the second in our series of 4 MOUs, this one with the SPPA group of sergeants. And again, it is accelerating what would have been the Part 3 of a pay range adjustment and bringing it forward in time from the previously planned July 8th of 2019 to give them the opportunity to pick that up as of October 1st of 2018 or after, depending on when their actual performance review date comes forward. It does come with a financial impact anticipated to be $12,000 all in the general fund in this fiscal year and $14,000 in FY '20, those being the last 2 years of that agreement, and totaling for the 2 years, $26,000. With that, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Kreutz? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing item, so open up to public hearing. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the MOU between the City of Sparks and the City of Sparks Police Protective Association Sergeants.
Mr. Lawson.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Lawson to approve 10.7 as outlined by staff. Any further questions? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.8, public hearing, consideration possible approval of a memorandum of understanding AC 5515 between the City of Sparks and the Sparks Police Protective Association Lieutenants. Go ahead, Neil.
All right, thank you, Mayor Martini. Again, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager with the SPPA Lieutenants. Again, it's contemplating bringing forward the last of 3 pay range adjustments from July 8th of 2019, bringing it forward about 9 months to October 1st of this year to line them up with how we've applied and offered hay to all the other groups. It would carry a financial impact, all general fund related, in $7,000 in this year and $11,000 in the next fiscal year, years 2 and 3 of that 3-year agreement, for a grand total fiscal impact of $18,000.
Questions for Mr. Kreutz? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Open to public hearing. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Mr. Dare.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Sparks and the City of Sparks Police Protective Association Lieutenants.
Second, Mr. Abbott.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Dare, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 10.8 as outlined by staff. Any further questions? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.9, public hearing, consideration of possible approval of memorandum of understanding AC 5516 between the City of Sparks and the Association of Sparks Fire Department Classified Chiefs. Go ahead, Mr. Kreutz, you're on a roll, I think.
We're closing in on the home stretch.
Yes, sir.
For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager, now here with the same in concept type of MOU with our classified chief officers, or our battalion chiefs for short. We are at the beginning of year 2 of a 3-year collective bargaining agreement with them. One difference is just by date, in that we spread out the pay range adjustment for them and applied it to them in January of each year, rather than July. So we'll actually, if approved, would be bringing forward the second and the third pay range adjustments for them. They're due to receive their next one currently January 7th of next year, and Part 3, January 6th of year 2020. To, again, make that all available to them as, those last 2 years available to them as of October 1st. That certainly comes with a general fund impact of $17,000 in this fiscal year, and then a smaller amount of $9,000 in FY20 for a grand total of $26,000 in general fund impact for the last 2 years of that collective bargaining agreement.
Questions for Mr. Cruz? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Open a public hearing. Anyone want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it to council for action. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Sparks and the City of Sparks Fire Department classified chief officers.
Second, Mr. Smith.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 10.9 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.10 is a public hearing, consideration and possible approval of resolution number 3341 for the mid-management professional and technical employees for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2021. Go ahead, Mr. Cruz.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm going to excuse myself. I have a 5:30 appointment I have to be at.
Okay, there's no excuse.
In
for
all
you, but
my
go ahead.
8 years of being on Sparks City Council, this is the latest we've ever run. So my
It's-
apologies.
It's tough when you have to work for your living, right?
Sometimes you do, yes, sir.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate
Thank
all
you.
your input. Go ahead, Neil.
Thank you, Mayor Martini. For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. Now we are on the home stretch. This is part 4 of the presentation. We're talking about the employees who are covered by resolutions. Starting with, by head count, certainly the largest number of employees, and that is our mid-management professional technical group. And actually, I'm sorry that Councilmember Lawson had to leave because he referenced a group that was hit very hard by the Great Recession. I would offer up that mid-management was hit incredibly hard by the Great Recession, and I'm pleased that, you know, we are able to be bringing things back bit by bit. Granted, not as much as we'd like, but I do believe that we're on the right track. But I wanted to acknowledge that it was our mid-managers who took a significant hit in that 2008 to 2010 timeframe that none of us ever want to have to live through again. So having said that, we are replacing and adding a year to a 3-year resolution term that you approved a year ago. And really what we're doing is we are adopting HAY, as our Human Resources Manager, Mindy Falk, went through. And the thought was, as long as we have to open up the resolution to do that, let's tag a new 3rd year on there. So that we are, and we're going to do that in all 4 of the resolutions, so that we will have 3 years going forward. So we are adopting HAY as was proposed. It's written into the agreement, and that really, you know, makes up the lion's share of the change. You know, the HAY impacts in this fiscal year were anticipated to be about $15,000 in the general fund, $12,000 in all other funds, for a total of $27,000. Next fiscal year, FY20, would $70,000 impact in the general fund, up to $68,000 in all other funds, for a total of $138,000. And then in fiscal year 21, or the new 3rd year, would be $126,000 in the general fund, $107,000 in all other funds, for a total of $233,000. And as I mentioned, we are asking to add a new 3rd year to take them out through fiscal year 21. And in terms of cost of living adjustment, carrying forward what we've been doing, which is that cost of living adjustment between 1 and 3 based on the CPI, we're proposing to add that in and create a new 3rd year with that group. That comes with its own impacts in fiscal year 21. In the general impact, in the general fund, the impacts are forecast to be between $37,000 and $113,000. Again, 37 if the CPI is at 1, 113 if it's at 3, and then all other funds between $43,000 and $131,000. With that, I would be happy to try and answer any questions that you have.
Questions for Mr. Kreutz? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for action. Ms. Bybee.
I move to adopt resolution number 3341 between the City of Sparks and the mid-management professional and technical employees for the period of July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021, and repeal prior resolution number 3322.
Mr. Smith.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Bybee, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve 1010 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 1011, public hearing, consideration possible approval of resolution number 3342 for the deputy police chief for the period of July 1, 2018 to June 30th, 2021. Go ahead, Neil.
Thank you, Mayor Martini. For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. Part 2 of 4 in terms of resolution changes is the same setup as before. We are adding a year to the resolution, adopting hay, and then adding language in there for a COLA in that new third year of the agreement. Its hay impacts are estimated at $2,500 in this fiscal year, all general fund related, $19,000 in FY20 and $25,000 in FY21. The cost of living adjustments in FY21 are estimated to fall between $4,000 and $12,000. With that, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that you have.
Questions for Mr. Kreutz? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing, open up to the public. Anyone to speak to this particular item? Seeing no takers, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Mr. Smith.
I move to adopt resolution number 3342 between the City of Sparks and the Deputy Police Chief for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2021, and repeal prior resolution number 3320.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Abbott to approve 10.11 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. 10.12, public hearing question, consideration and possible approval of resolution number 3343 for Assistant, Senior, and Chief Assistant City Attorneys for the period of July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2021. Go ahead, Neil.
Thank you, Mayor Martini. For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager, here with the third of the 4 resolutions. This one for our attorney group, as the mayor just covered. It would add a new third year to the agreement, adopt hay, and set up the structure for a cost of living adjustment, again, between 1 and 3 based on the CPI. In terms of hay impacts, fiscal, we're looking, it's all general fund related, nothing in this fiscal year, up to $10,000 in the next, and $16,000 in FY21. And then by adding a new third year, a cost of living adjustment, that will have a general fund impact ranging between $8,000 and $24,000. With that, I would be happy to try and answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Kreutz? Okay, this is a public hearing, so open the public hearing. Anyone in the public want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for action. Looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to adopt resolution number 3343 between the City of Sparks and the Assistant, Senior, and Chief Assistant City Attorneys for the period of July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021, and repeal prior resolution number 3321.
Second, Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. Abbott, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 10.12 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Home stretch now, 10.13, public hearing, consideration of possible approval of resolution number 3344 for the executives for the period July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2021. Go ahead, Mr. Kreutz.
Thank you, Mayor Martini. For the record, Neil Kreutz, Assistant City Manager. Glad to be on the home stretch. Here with the executive resolution, and again, we are adding a new third year. We are proposing to adopt hay and then provide the structure for a cost of living adjustment in that new third year of fiscal year 21. In terms of hay pay range fiscal impacts in this fiscal year, it's at up to $18,000 in the general fund and $3,000 in all other funds. Fiscal year 21, $45,000 impact in the general fund and up to $4,000 in all others. And then in the new third year, $64,000 in general fund impacts and $4,000 again in all other funds. Looking at the fiscal impact of that new third year, or FY21, the general fund impact will range from a low of $13,000 to a maximum of $39,000, and combining all the other funds together, it would run between $4,000 and $13,000. And finally, I want to thank the large number of people that worked on all of these staff reports and everything that brought us here today. It involved every member of the Human Resources staff. It involved in great detail Ms. Eiding that helped us get here. It involved in great detail the clerk, Teresa Gardner, in helping us get here today. It truly was a team effort. And I am greatly appreciative of all of the effort and all of the patience that was shown to put together the 13 items that brought us here today. So thank you very much for that.
Questions for Mr. Kreutz?
Actually,
good.
I have a quick one. Is FY21, it says 120,000, isn't it? Is it 68,000? I know it's a minor detail.
Details, you're right.
when you add the 68 to the 39 to the 13 is where you get the big number.
Okay.
I broke it down and showed you hay impact and then the impact of the cost of living adjustments. When you add those together, that's what should come up to the number that's in the title.
I just see like the title has the same totals from general and all other. It matches, and then the third one in 21 jumps to 120, and this is 68,000.
So 68 and 39 would be 107, and 13 would take us to 120. So I believe they add up for us when we're looking at the outside top end.
I'm lost.
Okay. Okay, this is a public hearing, so open a public hearing to the audience. Anyone want to speak to this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for action. Don't let me go now, kids. We got Mr. Smith.
Okay, I move to adopt resolution number 3344 between the city of Sparks and the executive employees for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2021, and repeal 3328. Am I on the right one?
1012,
Yeah,
2013,
okay.
yeah.
Seemed a lot, pretty similar to the last one I just read, I think.
Very.
Only because it is.
Exactly.
Should
the
be off
same.
by one.
Okay.
Second, Ms. Bybee.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Bybee to approve 10.13 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Phew. This is a recording.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
You know, good, you're right, Neil, good work by everybody here. It takes a village to do this kind of stuff, and everybody did a great job, and it turned out great. You know, cooperation on both sides is key, so, good. Now, let's move on to planning and zoning. 11.1, consideration and possible approval of a request to amend the final development handbook for Kylie Ranch North Phase Number 7 to allow for private streets on a site approximately 67.56 acres in size. Go ahead, Ms. Melby. I should have done this before we did all this.
It's been long enough, so good evening.
Hi.
I'm Karen Melby, Development Service Manager. Before you right now is something completely different. It's development. It's an amendment to the Kylie Ranch final development handbook for Phase 7 to allow for private streets on the property that's on the size of 67.56 acres. You can see outlined in blue here on the map. This is.
That's real blue or?
Yeah, it's real blue. There would be they have to extend Lazy Five Parkway to this property, and they'll have to extend a complete Kylie Ranch Parkway up to the property. On December 7th, 2017, you reviewed the final draft of the Kylie Ranch North Phase 7 Handbook, of which the City Council approved on January 8th, 2018. When recording the handbook, staff realized that it did not have a corrected page, so on May 14th, 2018, the City Council approved the revised handbook with the corrected figure 2-3 for the phase handbook on page 2-9. So actually, before you today is the third review of this final plan development handbook. The master developer of Village 9, or Phase 7, is proposing a gated community with private streets, entrance gates, and a private community clubhouse. The recorded Phase 7 handbook did not allow for private streets, gates, or private recreational amenities. Therefore, the applicant is asking to amend the handbook to allow these private streets, entrance gates, as a development option. The changes in the handbooks are outlined in yellow, and the deletions are strikeout. Here is the land use map. You can see that it's designated low, medium residential. The only land uses in the final handbook is the low density residential, and then a strip of open space here on the east side. The handbook identifies the responsibility of the parties for the maintenance of the private streets, utilities, streetlights, fire hydrants, and common areas. Since the approval of Phase 7 handbook earlier this year, a tentative map was submitted and approved for 344 single-family lots. To be considered as a separate item today on this agenda is a new tentative map with the private streets, utilities, etc. for 310 single-family lots. Addressing the modification of a final handbook per Title 20, there are 10 findings, which I need to quickly go through. Finding A is consistent with the comp plan and Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. Phase 7 handbook is located within the Truckee Meadows service area, consistent with the regional plan goal 1.1. Phase 7 handbook provides residential densities of 4 to 7.9 units per acre, making a relatively compact single-family development supporting goal MG6. The proposed amendments are to allow private streets, which will provide a different type of housing opportunity in the Kylie Ranch North Handbook, supporting goal H1. The subject property is in the city's sewer modeling and traffic studies, and with this project, it is not expected to exceed the build-out of some assumptions supporting this policy CF1. Phase 7 preserves open space and existing drainage along the eastern portion of the property, which complies with policy RC22. Finding B, which is consistent with the surrounding land uses to the north, south, west of the lands are within the Kylie Ranch North Plan Development. To the east is the Pioneer Meadows Plan Development Handbook. The proposed amendment to Phase 7 does not change the approved land uses, which are consistent with the existing or planned land uses in the adjacent areas. The proposed changes to the final handbook are to permit gated private streets and will only apply to Phase 7. Finding C, which is the fiscally positive, a fiscal impact analysis was not required with this amendment to Phase 7 handbook, since the amendment would not change the permitted uses. In addition, if some of the Phase 7 streets are private, it would actually reduce city's infrastructure maintenance costs. Finding D, which is the furtherance of mutual interests of the residents and owners of the planned development and the public. The proposed amendment would allow another choice, a single-family gated community within the Kylie Ranch North Plan Development. The amendments do not change the land use or development densities of Phase 7. As discussed in above Finding B, the changes are anticipated to have limited impact on the residents or owners of the properties in adjacent areas, preserving the integrity of the approved Kylie Ranch Plan Development. Finding E will not impair the reasonable reliance of the residents or owners. The proposed handbook does not change the approved land uses or densities. In addition, no development within this plan development has occurred, so therefore there are no property owners within Phase 7, besides the owner of the whole 67 acres. Findings F will not result in changes that would adversely affect the public interest. The proposed amendments are to allow a gated community in Village 9. As discussed previously in Finding B, the proposed changes are anticipated to have limited impact on the residents or owners of the properties in the adjacent areas. Finding G, consistent with the efficient development and preservation of the entire plan development. The proposed amendments do not change the land use nor the density. Village 9 will be developed as single-family lots, which is consistent with the tentative handbook. Finding H, does not adversely affect either the enjoyment of the land abutting or across the street from the planned development. The proposed amendments permit Village 9 to be developed as a gated community of single-family homes, which is anticipated to have a limited impact on adjacent residents. Finding I, does not grant solely to confer private benefit upon any person. The property has a single owner and simply allows Village 9 to be developed as a gated community, which benefits the future residents. And finally, Finding J, which is public notice. Public notice was published in the Reno Gazette-Journal on July 20th, 2018. 32 neighbors were noticed within 750 of the subject property. To date, staff has not received any comments or phone calls or emails from the surrounding property owners. Planning Commission does recommend approval, that City Council approve this amendment. That concludes my presentation.
Thanks, Karen. Any questions for Ms. Melby? Applicant have anything to say? Okay. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll open to the public. Anyone want to speak to this particular item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for action. Mr. Dare.
I'd make a motion, sir.
Go ahead.
I move to amend the final development handbook for Kylie Ranch North Phase 7 to allow for private streets on a site approximately 67.56 acres in size in the NUD. It's the new urban district Kylie Ranch North zoning district generally located east of Kylie Parkway. north of Windmill Farms Parkway and south of Lazy Five Parkway, Sparks, Nevada, based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report.
Second, Ms. Bybee.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Dare, second by Ms. Bybee to approve 11.1 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, let's go back to 9.3. Assume you're doing this one too, Karen?
Yes.
Consideration of and possible approval of a tentative map request for a 310-lot, single-family residential subdivision within the Kylie Ranch North Phase 7 Planned Development Village 9 on a site approximately 67.56 acres in size. Go ahead, Karen.
Good evening, Mayor Martini and Council. I'm Karen Melby, Development Service Manager. The tentative map request before you today is for 310 residential lots within the Kylie Ranch North Phase 7 Planned Development, also known as Village 9. The site is 67.56 acres in size, and it is zoned new urban district in part of the Kylie Ranch North Planned Development. It is located east of Kylie Ranch Parkway, which would have to be extended to the north, and north of Windmill Farms, which is right here, and also south of Lazy Five Parkway when it's extended. You can see the property is outlined here in the bluish color.
Cyan. I wanted to say cyan.
So pretty.
You like cyan.
The Kylie Ranch Village
Nice,
9
Karen,
encompasses the,
Nice, good job.
The Kylie Ranch Village 9 encompasses in the entire Phase 7 final handbook for Kylie Ranch North. The land is designated low-medium dense residential, which permits 3 to 6 dwelling units per acre. The proposed gross density of the tentative map is 5.3 dwelling units per acre, which complies with the Phase 7 handbook. In March 2018, the City Council did approve a tentative map with 20 conditions for 344 single-family lots on this subject property. The master developer would like to develop as a gated community with private streets, so they have submitted a new tentative map. That is what you're reviewing right now. The subdivision street network is similar to the previously approved tentative map. If you approve the new tentative map, that will supersede the approval of the tentative map in March. This is an overview of the tentative map. North is to your right, I believe. Village 9 is to be developed into 3 sub-villages. The average lot size will be 6,235 square feet. The anticipated phasing is from the south to the north. The master developer is planning to provide private clubhouse to the residents of Village 9, which will be on this large lot in the middle here. The master developer is proposing to have an entrance gate, which would be at Granary Park Avenue, Dappler Way, Hoot Owl Way. Junebug, which is this street here on the far south, will be gated as an emergency access only, and that is condition 21. With the installation of the entrance gates, the street network must be privately owned and maintained by the homeowners association or a sub-association. The sub-association will be responsible for the maintenance of the private streets, utilities, and recreational amenities. The private access to the property is via roads that intersect with the Kylie Parkway, Windmill Farms Parkway, and Lazy Five Parkway, and which conforms with the Kylie Ranch Phase 7 final handbook. The roads are designed to handle the tentative map traffic generation. The applicant provided a queuing analysis prepared by the traffic engineer to address the stacking of vehicles in the PM at the entrance gates. Staff was a little concerned about that with the gates here, if they would cause queuing or backing up of the traffic onto mostly Kylie Ranch Parkway. The traffic engineer in his study recommends that the gates remain open between 4 to 6 p.m. to avoid queuing or backing up onto the surrounding streets. This recommendation was added to as a conditions in the final handbook and not a condition on the tentative map. Addressing the tentative map findings, which I think there are 12 of them, First one is T1, conformance to the master plan and zoning ordinances. The land uses in the Kylie Ranch Plan development have been adopted as part of the Sparks Comprehensive Plan. The gross densities for the tentative map is 5.3 dwelling units, acres, which complies with both the Kylie Ranch Phase 7 final handbook and also the city's comprehensive plan. The tentative map complies with policies C4, CF1, policy CC8, policy H1, policy H2, because there are sidewalks provided on both sides of the street, of the private streets. City's infrastructure modeling has been included the subject village. The gated community will provide a different housing option in the Kylie Ranch North area, and the tentative map provides an alternative, single-family housing community not currently offered in Sparks. Finding T2, which is conformance to the city's master plan on streets. The tentative map incorporates the street design shown in the Kylie Ranch North Phase final handbook. The project requires extension of the Kylie Ranch Parkway and Lazy 5 Parkway to access the property. Finding T3, which is environmental and health laws. This application was distributed to the various agencies that provide basic services and administrative, environmental, and health laws. The developer shall comply with the requirements of these agencies, which is with the final map, and that is condition 4 on the tentative. Finding T4, which is the availability of water. The developer has estimated that the water requirement for this development will be 109.5 acre-feet per year for the domestic water. The water rights needed to serve the project are in place or will be dedicated with the final map. That's condition 6. Finding T5, which is the availability and the accessibility to utilities. The developer has estimated that the sewage flows of the development will be 281,975 gallons per day. The applicant will be required to provide evidence that there is adequate sewer capacity to serve the project prior to the recordation of the final map. The storm water and drainage plan for the development shall be reviewed and approved by the Engineering Division of Community Services prior to the recordation of the final map. That's conditions 14 and 18 and 8. Finding T6, which is the availability and accessibility to public services. The schools currently zoned for this area are Hall Elementary School, Shaw Middle School, and Spanish Springs High School. Washoe County School District provided us in writing that the number of students estimated to be generated by this project are 113 students, of which 70 will be elementary students, 14 will be middle school students, and 29 would be high school students. Sparks PD will be the police provider. Regional Transportation provided comments, which is attached to the my staff report. Fire and emergency medical response will be provided by the Sparks Fire Department. At this time, the project is located outside the 6-minute response time for the Sparks Fire Department, which the city has an agreement with the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District for mutual aid to serve this area. Sparks Fire Department requires 2 means of access to Village 9 prior to any combustible materials being placed on site, which requires the construction of the Kylie and Lazy 5 parkways. This is condition 12. Finding T7, effect of the proposed subdivision on the existing public streets and needs for new streets. It is anticipated that the project will generate 3,008 average daily trips with an AM peak hour of 237, PM peak hour would be 316 trips. Traffic impacts for this project have been considered with the review and approval of the handbook for Phase 7. This tentative map does not change the traffic patterns or generate increased trips in excess of the planned capacity for the surrounding roads. As part of the application, a queuing analysis, which was Exhibit 3 attached to my staff report for entry through the gates into Village, it was prepared by an engineer, and I discussed in detail previously. Finding T8, physical characteristics. First, the floodplain. The majority of the property is in the FEMA zoned X. However, approximately 8 acres on the east side is located within the FEMA zoned A, which the applicant is proposing to file a letter of map revision with FEMA to use fill to raise these lots out of Zone 8. Next issue is the slope, which is the property is relatively flat with slopes less than 5% over the entire property. And the last item is the soil, and the final a final geotechnical report will be required with the final map. Finding T9, which is entitled a new review comments or recommendations. Review letters from Washoe County School District, Washoe County Health District, and Washoe County Regional Transportation Commission, which these letters are attached to my staff or are addressed in the staff report and/or the conditions of approval. Finding T10, which is the availability and the accessibility of fire protection. Fire protection will be provided by the Sparks Fire Department as discussed previously under finding T6. Finding T11, which is to address the identified impacts or issues. The identified issues are landscaping and architecture. There are 12 common areas within the subdivision to be maintained by the sub-association. The final plans will be part of the final map and approved prior to the recordation of the final map, which is condition 10. Village 9 will be a single-family homes ranging in size from 1,200 square feet to 3,000 square feet. The architectural style must comply with the Kiley Ranch Phase 7 handbook, and the architectural elevations will be approved with the final map review, which is condition 7. Finally, on finding T12, which is public hearing, the Planning Commission and City Council function as the hearings for this item. Planning Commission and staff are recommending approval with 22 conditions. That concludes my presentation.
Questions for Ms. Melby? Okay, seeing none, this is not a public hearing, so I'm just going to ask for a motion. Mr. Dare?
I'd like to give a motion, but I also want to thank them for.
I'm sorry. Would the applicant like to say anything? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christopher.
I do want to thank the applicant and the applicants around there. To get that road in is very, very important to our region up there. Whenever there's something happens, it obviously creates quite a bottleneck up there, so it's going to be nice to have that and for the residents, so thank you. With that said, I move to approve the tentative map for a 310-lot, single-family residential subdivision with the Kiley Ranch North Phase 7 planned development, Village 9, on a site approximately 67.56 acres in size in the NUD New Urban District, Kiley Ranch North zoning district, generally located east of Kiley Parkway, north of Windmill Farms Parkway, and south of Lazy 5 Parkway. Sparks, Nevada, adopting findings T1 through T12 and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval 1 through 22 as listed in the staff report.
You have a second, Ms. Bybee?
Yes, I would like to make a second and also a simple statement. Thank you for another housing option. So as we look at trying to have a variety of options in the city of Sparks, I appreciate a gated part of Kiley, I think is a good addition, so thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Dare, second by Ms. Bybee to approve 9.3 as outlined by staff. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passed unanimously. Scott, Mike, thank you very much. I apologize for not doing this earlier. You know, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to keep you around here. Didn't need to do that this long, but thank you for hanging in there. And again, I apologize for not doing this sooner, okay? Next time, just kick me in the rear, would you please? And I'll get you taken care of. Okay, thanks. Okay, having said that, let's get back to the agenda. Comments from the public. Anybody in the public want to speak on? Nobody. Okay, comments from the mayor, city council, and city manager. I have one comment. Julie, I talked to a lady last week about the sound on TV. She said she doesn't get any sound from the council meeting. So if you could check into that and let me know what's going on, please. All right. Anything else? Anybody? Okay, see no further business. We're adjourned. Thank you.